Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 12th, 2022 City Council meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order, and we'll ask Councilman Tom Moore if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Moore,
Here.
Councilmember Sistarsik,
Here.
Councilmember Masalavit,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Verapapa,
Here.
and Mayor Kalmick,
Here.
all present.
Okay, next is the approval of the agenda and waiver of full reading of resolutions and ordinances. By motion of the City Council, this is the time to notify the public of any changes to the agenda and/or rearrange the order of the agenda. Does anyone wish to pull a consent calendar item? Okay, seeing none. City Clerk, do we have any supplemental communications?
Yes, Mayor, we have about 26 supplemental communications. 20 of those are related to the parklet items.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll call for a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move. I'll second.
Thank you. Could we please have a vote?
Councilmember Masalavit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Verapapa, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Mayor Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes. Next are presentations and recognition. First is for the Los Alamitos Middle School Choir, Christmas Carolers. So we'd like to have the carolers come on in. Don't be shy.
I think this is the younger group because we've always. Yeah, this is cool.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing a cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, ding dong, that is the song, with cheerful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holly bough, raising the sound, heart of the dance, down in its door. Gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, it's long, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, it's long. Please stand all without end, digital to every home. Dark colored bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing the cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, that is the song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holly bough, raising the sound, heart of the dance, down in its door. Gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, Merry Christmas, ding dong, ding dong, Merry Christmas. Please stand on without end, digital tone to every home.
Stand on without end, their joyful tone to every home.
Ding dong, ding dong. presents underneath the good old Christmas tree. And I'll wait all night till Santa comes to wake me from my dreams. Oh, why? 'Cause that's Christmas to me. I see the children play outside like angels in the snow, while Mom and Daddy share a kiss under the mistletoe. And we'll cherish all these simple things forever we may be. Oh, why? 'Cause that's Christmas to me. I've got this Christmas song in my heart. I've got the candles glowing in the dark. Hanging all the stockings by the Christmas tree. Oh, why? 'Cause that's Christmas to me.
Okay, many thanks to the Los Alamitos Middle School Choir. Next, I'm going to call upon our new Chief of Police, Michael Henderson, for one of his first official acts.
Thank you, Mayor Kalmick, City Council members, City Manager Ingram. Tonight, we honor Betty Camacho. Can Betty come forward, please? So I'd like to read some remarks that will help explain why we're here tonight to honor Betty. Betty Camacho is our longest-serving Crossing Guard. She retired on October 28, 2022, after 28 years of service to the city of Seal Beach. She worked the intersection at 12th and PCH for the last 22 years and is beloved by so many McGaw parents and children. Miss Betty will be recognized tonight for her service to the city. Recently, Lieutenant Clasby interviewed Betty in preparation for this presentation. And this is how that interview went. Betty started her crossing guard career in 1973 in her home city of Anaheim. In 1992, she decided to leave Anaheim to come to the beach and settled into a home on 8th Street, where she lived for the next 30 years. In 1994, Betty's husband suggested that she return her passion for crossing guard service and apply with the city of Seal Beach. Betty was hired by Sergeant Rick Ransdell, another long-time and much-beloved Seal Beach employee. Betty was a crossing guard for the city of Seal Beach for the past 28 years. She has worked at every school crossing guard location in the city and spent the last 22 years at 12th and PCH. When asked if she looks forward to a much-deserved retirement, she shared, "Being a crossing guard is my life. I will miss the families and the children. I don't know if I'll ever get over it." She was asked if maybe she could become a crossing guard in her new home city of Huntington Beach, to which she replied, "There's no place like Seal Beach." Betty expressed her love for the children and families that have crossed her path at PCH and 12th over the past many years. Thank you, Betty, for your service to the city of Seal Beach. We are deeply grateful and forever in your debt for your impressive tenure and unwavering dedication to the care and safety of our most important treasures, our children.
I would like to thank the city of Seal Beach and the Seal Beach Police Department, which I served for 28 years. I miss all of you so much. I miss all the families and all the people that I met over the 28 years. I will come to visit Seal Beach as much as I can. I now live in Huntington Beach in a condo, but I still have my heart here in Seal Beach. Thank all of you.
I believe Principal Wendy Wood of McGaw is here as well and would like to make a few comments as well.
Do I leave? Should I?
From all of our families at McGaw Elementary who already miss you dearly, we just want to say thank you, because crossing guards are more than just a crossing guard. You're part of our family. So thank you so much. We really, really deeply appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Betty, we also like to present you with one of our precious Seal Beach tiles.
It's beautiful.
It says Betty Camacho, Crossing Guard, April 1994 through October of 2022. Thank you for your dedicated service to the city of Seal Beach. From the Seal Beach City Council, December 12th.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy it. Good. Congratulations. And next, we have the introduction of one of our new employees in the Planning Community Development Department. So our Community Development Director, Alexis Smittle, if you would do the introductions.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to introduce Sean Temple to you this evening as our new planning manager in the Community Development Department. Sean has a bachelor's degree from Cal State Monterey Bay and a master's degree in city and regional planning from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Following his service in the United States Army, Sean began his planning career as a volunteer at the Fort Ord Reuse Authority and then as a housing aide for the city of Pacific Grove. For the past 14 years, Sean has worked for the County of Los Angeles, having risen to the position of principal planner with experience in code enforcement, processing and presenting discretionary permit applications, coordinating cross-departmental initiatives, chairing committees to put in place work improvement efficiencies, and training fellow planners. Sean is a member in good standing with the American Institute of Certified Planners and is a graduate of the American Planning Association's Planning Leadership Academy. He lives in Long Beach with his wife Diane, who's also here with us this evening, as well as their 17-year-old cat Cleo. They enjoy going to the theater to watch movies on the big screen, and they regularly hike on the weekends, working toward a goal of hiking to the top of Mount Baldy next fall.
Wow.
Sean, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Alexa. Mr. Mayor, esteemed council members, I'm very happy to be here tonight. I want to thank Alexa and our city manager, Jill Ingram, for providing me with this opportunity to serve the city of Seal Beach and its citizens. As Alexa said, we live in Long Beach by El Dorado Park. It's not uncommon for us to get on our bikes and ride down the San Gabriel River Trail into Seal Beach. So this is a community that we're familiar with and that we're very fond of. And I look forward to bringing my experience and my work ethic to providing the best service I can for this city. Thank you.
Very good. Next, we're going to have a 6-month review of our soon-to-be operational Seal Beach Animal Control Service. And Chief Henderson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Kalmick, City Council members. This is a 6-month update on our efforts for implementation of our own animal control services. So as was approved by the City Council, we will be creating our own in-house animal control function using our current senior community services officers who will be cross-trained in animal control services. Additionally, the animal control officers will be multifunctional in conducting parking enforcement as well as conducting animal control services. So I apologize, it's a little small, but as an overview, some of the things that we've done so far. Again, the City Council approved this initiative on May 23rd. We've reclassified one of our senior community service officers, Mike McDonald, to a police services manager position. In July, 7 of our senior community service officers attended a 2-week humane animal enforcement training course. And on October, the remaining senior community service officers attended the same course. Currently, we have several of our enforcement officers in field training programs in partnering cities of Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, and Hermosa Beach as they gain valuable in-field experience. We have been drafting agreements, and they are being reviewed or have been reviewed by the city attorney. We've worked with the finance department to adjust our fee schedule accordingly so that we're in line with best practices in this endeavor. We've created a written policy which governs all aspects of how we will conduct animal control within the city. We have purchased and have begun outfitting 2 new trucks. You may have seen them. They're parked out in front of City Hall tonight. And we've actually begun some education and outreach by going out onto the Greenbelt and educating some of our folks about having their dogs on a leash in that particular area. As I stated, Police Services Manager Mike McDonald has been reclassified. He's assumed all the field supervision duties, and he's already begun outreach and education efforts. Next slide. The Animal Control Services vehicles are purchased. The wraps have been installed, as well as the graphics. Because of supply chain issues, we're waiting the camper shells, which would make these fully operational so that we can actually haul equipment and animals when necessary. And then the emergency lights and our ALPR parking enforcement systems will be installed after the camper shells have been obtained. I talked about the training we've done. It's important to note that we sent the senior CSOs to what's known as a humane animal enforcement program for training, as this is a best practice within the profession, and they're conducting their field training right now. Where we're at right now is obtaining shelter services for animals. These were the stated goals of the program upon its inception. We're looking for a no-kill shelter that's available 24 hours a day and will accept all companion animals. Next slide. As directed by the City Council in May, we made a concerted effort to work with the Seal Beach Animal Care Center to obtain their services. Through the months of August, September, and October, we held several meetings with representatives of the Animal Care Center, and both of us made a good faith effort to try to work through an agreement that would be acceptable to both. I made a presentation to the Animal Care Center Board on October 20th. On November 17th, the city received a reply, and unfortunately, they will not be able to accommodate our request at this time. So moving forward, we'll be seeking animal care shelter services through an RFP process, which we will undertake after the beginning of the year. They will complete training of our humane animal control officers and finish outfitting the trucks. We'll finish our agreement with the licensing, the outside contractor for animal pet licensing, finish purchasing our agreement, our equipment, and finish our agreement to accept wildlife animals. And that's all I have for you. I'm ready to accept any questions if you have some.
Questions?
I do. Do we have any prospects in a shelter?
So there are several shelters in our vicinity. There's shelters in Westminster, Huntington Beach, and other neighboring cities. As part of the RFP process, we'll create a list of criteria and send the RFP to all eligible shelters We certainly hope to obtain one through the RFP process.
Do you have a timeline for sending out the RFP?
We will we'll be beginning that after the first of the year, after we return from the holiday break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
If we don't find the shelter, what's the plan? Or
So,
B.
I'm sorry?
Plan B.
Plan B. So, our Plan B at this time is we're still staying with Long Beach Animal Care Services. We're still using them as our primary provider, even though we've undertaken some of these duties. We would probably go back to them and see what would be available through Long Beach. But we certainly hope to obtain a shelter through the RFP process.
okay.
I just had a question about air conditioning the camper shell. We're okay with that kind of vehicle?
Yes, so initially, we felt that we would have to be purchasing a vehicle that would provide air conditioning. As it turned out, we were able to, through change in procedures, it won't be necessary for us to have that. Through our policies and procedures, we'll be transporting the animals much sooner. Those types of air-conditioned vehicles are more suitable for much larger agencies like Orange County, where potentially an animal could be in a truck for an extended period of time. That won't be the case with us. Our procedure will be to transport the animal as quickly as possible and move it to a shelter facility.
Thank you.
So I assume then that the inability to reach an agreement with our local shelter was not expected, and some things came up that.
So while they were actually eager to work with us, the sticking point became the companion animals. They focused primarily on dogs and cats, and any other types of companion animals other than dogs and cats they would not be able to accommodate.
Okay. And once the two vehicles are available to be in service, that doesn't prohibit us from patrolling and educating residents on dogs off leash and being able to get out onto the beach and some of the areas where we currently seem to have a lot of calls for service.
That's correct, and as I said, we've already started doing some of that on the Greenbelt as we've been getting calls. Once those vehicles are fully outfitted, they'll be deployed also as parking enforcement vehicles, so for their dual purpose.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next is oral communications. At this time, members of the public may address the council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on any items not on the agenda unless authorized by law. Matters not on the agenda may, at the council's discretion, be referred to the city manager and placed on a future agenda. Those members of the public wishing to speak are asked to come forward to the microphone and state their name for the record. All speakers will be limited to a period of 5 minutes. Speakers must address their comments only to the mayor and entire city council, not to any individual member of the staff or audience. Any documents for review should be presented to the city clerk for distribution. So if you wish to speak, please come to the podium and state your name.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Stephanie Wade, District 3, and I wanted to come first to say thank you to Betty, who I know had to leave, but I was a teacher for a decade and a half, and I know that the people who make the most difference are the ones like Betty who talk to kids, share a kind word, and all the McGaw parents I know raved about how she was that person for their kids. But I also wanted, I'll have something to say about parklets when that agenda item comes up, but I wanted to come and speak about the flooding that took place yesterday in District 3. I'm looking forward to Jill's report. I know she always does a thorough report after there's any kind of a flooding incident or an environmental incident. But I want to talk about it a little for a minute because I think the city has come to accept that there's going to be flooding, and I don't accept it. The job of the city is to protect people and their property, and I think we can do better than this. You know, I've been talking about trying to find federal and state funding for new storm drains, adding pumping capacity, build forward-looking solutions like living shorelines. But at a minimum, I think I want to add a new sense of urgency and commitment to predict these events, and they are predictable. Sunday's heavy rains were predicted, as was the 5-foot 4-inch high tide that we had. In fact, Saturday night, the night before, I was speaking to a business owner who has a business in District 3, and we were both looking at whether it was going to flood because we were looking at the tide. And we said, well, it's not quite the 6-foot tide that usually does it, but let's see. So, you know, I think that's something we can really work on. The flooding happened in particular, usually it happens when it's higher than 6 feet. The flooding happened because the pumping station on First Street failed. And so within an hour of texting a couple of council members and some other people reaching out to PD, I know the city had Public Works on site to get that pumping station going, and then the flooding was quickly alleviated. But I can't help thinking that there isn't a better way for us to predict some of these events, have staff on call. I mean, we have a marine safety department. I'm sure they're looking at tides and weather. If there's some way we can increase the communication and plan for some of these events. I mean, several cars flooded, a business on 5th Street, you know, started to flood. And, you know, I think that we can just do better. And that's why I'm running for city council. It was the first thing that interested me in running for city council is looking at the environmental threats, which we know are only getting worse with sea level rise and increasing storm intensity. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Kalmick, Mayor Pro Tem Vera Papa, and City Council members. My name is Corey Daly Allen, and I'm here from the Seal Beach Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has been active this month, even though it's supposed to be a slow time of year. We had a wonderful time at the Christmas parade. We give a lot of accolades to the Lions, who really, in the midst of all of that rain and craziness the day before, really pulled it through, as well as Breakfast with Santa. We were busy with the Americana Awards, sat with Mayor Kalmick, and then we also were a part of the Westmont holiday party. Ugly sweaters are back, and tomorrow we will have our holiday party at O'Malley's from 6 o'clock on. Super excited to really recognize and celebrate, and we invite all of the council members to come just to celebrate the year that Seal Beach business has actually triumphed in. Our office will be closed between Christmas and New Year's, as it is traditionally done. And then starting in January, we will start back up with our chamber networking breakfast. Again, 7:45 in the morning at O'Malley's on Main. Following up with January 18th, Let's Do Lunch, where for anybody that doesn't want to get up so early in the morning, they will have an opportunity to network at Finn Bars at 12 p.m. We do want to acknowledge our bronze sponsors. We have Coastline Environmental Solutions, Vincent Artado, Aflac, Nikki Albright, and Affliction. They have stepped up at a higher level to support not only our community, but the Seal Beach Chamber. And we have our renewed but newly member, Lisa Landau, for Seal Beach City Council, District 3. And of course, I went over the other ones last. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Kalmick, members of the City Council, City Manager Ingram. My name is Jeffrey Baum. I'm here with my sister-in-law, Annelle Baum, and on behalf of my mother, Sherry Baum. My father, Morton Baum, was a member of this City Council and former mayor of Seal Beach, and he was so proud of this town. And I'm just here, I know that you'll be adjourning the council in his memory tonight. I'm just here on behalf of our entire family to thank you and the entire community for the outpouring of messages and condolences and words of support that we've received over the last 3 weeks since my dad's passing. He really cared so deeply about this city, and it was, next to my mom, it was a passion of his life. And the message he would want to convey to each of you is how consequential your role is as members of this council. There are, sometimes we take for granted the unique character of this town, but there was a time in the late 60s where there was a plan to take Seal Beach to 75,000 people by the year 1975. And a group of citizens said, we didn't want to destroy the character of this town. And I know the mayor is going to share some of the things that they were able to accomplish when they were on the city council. But it was a group of local citizens who decided they wanted to make sure that they're going to do everything they can to preserve this community. And that's what each of you are doing to honor and preserve what a great town this is, to raise a family, to live, to retire, to enjoy. So thank you from our family. And I really appreciate, and we all appreciate, what this city means to each and every one of us. And especially thank you, Mayor Kalmick, for making this opportunity possible.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council members, my name is Craig Lyon, owner of Katrina Cafe. As owner of Katrina Cafe, I would like to take this opportunity to provide our position with respect to the parklets. As a business that has been utilizing one of the parklets since its inception, I want to state how vital it has been for the survival of our restaurant throughout the COVID epidemic and continues to be to this day. Our customers love the ability to dine outdoors, and the parklet has provided the ideal opportunity to do so. Many of our customers still feel more comfortable dining outdoors than indoors. Additionally, a large percentage of our customers are dog owners and always bring them to dine with us. Without the use of the parklet, we will lose all these customers to other restaurants that are lucky enough to have outdoor dining. I estimate that we could lose up to 20 to 25% of our revenue with the loss of the parklet. And in today's economy, with the rising costs, shrinking margins, trouble with labor, I don't know how many of us will be able to weather this. I believe that one of the few good things that arose from the COVID epidemic is the emphasis on outdoor dining and the introduction of the parklets. Main Street is the ideal backdrop for their existence. In my opinion, the Main Street experience includes dining, shopping, services, the pier, and the beach. Driving foot traffic to Main Street is imperative, and all the businesses on Main Street are part of this. We need to see the parklets as what they can be, not how they exist today in their current state. Well-designed, attractive parklets will be a draw for Main Street and will help drive the foot traffic needed for the success of all types of businesses here, as well as an increased revenue stream for the city itself. I've read through the staff's proposed program, which I think we all thought was moving forward, but then we get an email yesterday saying that it looks like it's going to be done at the end of January, which we were all quite surprised at. I just want to state that Katrina Cafe is on board and is willing to do what is necessary to participate and keep parklets on Main Street. Again, not as they are, but what they can be. I see this program as an investment in our future and a great opportunity to be able to continue to be a business on Main Street. We love being part of this community, and we want to continue to be part of it for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council and staff. Tom Rowe from the Abbey on Main Street, 306 Main Street. I'm here once again to talk about outdoor dining. Very similar to Craig's sentiments. I'll try not to repeat any, and some of the same comments I made back in September. Mostly, I'm just a little confused with the fact that back in September on the 10th, all 4 council members unanimously voted on moving forward with an ad hoc committee on kind of a positive note that night on investigating the pros and cons and how we would go about having outdoor dining. On October 18th, I received an email late in the afternoon, 2:45 in the afternoon. I was at LAX about a meeting on Thursday, less than 48 hours later, as most of us did. And some people didn't get that email even open until the next day. A little bit of short notice to see what the ad hoc committee, which consisted of 2 city council members to my knowledge and staff, to respond to or to even to attend. After that, I had the chance to meet with Alexa one afternoon at the Abbey for a brief conversation to kind of catch up on that, and hadn't heard anything since then until a few weeks ago. A couple rumors that the parklets might be going away, and the idea of outdoor dining was going away with that the end of January. I'm not quite sure how we got to A to Z that we were in conversation, and this conversation goes back to the spring of 2021 when I met with Les Johnson, the former director, and he came to me with conversations the city was having on the idea of having permanent outdoor dining, having a transportation system to offset some of the things that would cause with parking. And it seemed very progressive at the time and a good idea. We even got into conversations of prototypes and standards down to the umbrellas, putting standards on all these things that would maintain and assure the look for a long time. It wouldn't be what we now have was done, thank goodness, by Public Works and local restaurants in a matter of days or if not a week, that we were looking for something with longevity. So as I come before you tonight, I guess my request is, without going down the rabbit hole and asking a lot of questions and all that, is that if it's true, the staff recommendation is moving forward to a January 31st cutoff date to remove the parklets. I would ask for a minimum of a 6-month stay, and I would like to take advantage of that time to work collaboratively with the ad hoc committee and any new members and the business community to develop a plan that would be sustainable, that would meet all guidelines, that would add to Main Street, and it would enhance everything about what we've learned. As Craig mentioned, there's some good things that came out of this, and this is one of them. As a former chamber president, and speaking with many of the past presidents in the last few weeks, I'm not going to name them all, but 7 to 8 of them that have been here since 2010, everyone that I spoke with, we all have a couple things in common as past presidents and current president. We represented 200 plus businesses trying to find ways to increase business, trying to find ways to help businesses. And this just landed in our lap. I had no idea 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 40 years of restaurant experience. Put outdoor dining, put umbrellas up, and people will sit out there and enjoy it. So it's right in front of us what would make business better, how we could do that. And we all kind of come to that agreement that this is a solution to take Main Street and Seal Beach business into the future. So once again, I'd like to ask to postpone the decision. If necessary, wait till the new council seats in February and bring it up again. But really make good use of that time. We have a year left, a little over a year left under the state mandate that will allow us to continue doing what we're doing. And if we use that time properly and we come up with a plan and we submit it to Coastal, we'll probably be able to meet the timeline that would be ahead of us. And we can move forward with a good plan that would suit the city and the community at home. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the time. Good night.
Hello, my name is Dickie Rodden. I'm the owner of Taco Surf. My wife and I own Taco Surf on Main Street, and we run the restaurant. We put together a little statement briefly. I won't keep you long, but just wanted to let everybody know that our feelings on the whole parklet issue. When the pandemic first began and businesses were shutting down left and right, Taco Surf and a few other businesses made the difficult decision to remain open. This decision was not made based on financial gain, but as a commitment to our employees and our community. When the Parklet program was introduced to the restaurants of Main Street, the community jumped at the chance to dine outdoors in the fresh air, reducing the risk of COVID and the spread of COVID. Now the community has come to enjoy the option of dining outdoors at many of these restaurants. Guests with compromised immune systems, tourists enjoying the beautiful Seal Beach weather, and our valued locals who just simply love outdoor dining enjoy the patio dining experience in the ocean breeze on Main Street. Frankly, we've had nothing but positive responses from all of our customers. I would like to point out that we've been able to employ additional employees throughout the Parklet program. Closing the Parklets would inevitably cause employees to be laid off, as well as business closures due to the loss of revenue that our restaurants and businesses will endure. We've received several letters from a few of our neighboring businesses stating that they also believe it has been a positive to the Seal Beach community and economy. The issue of the Parklets not being kept in good condition has been raised a few times. Taco Surf, as well as most of the other proprietors I have spoken with, are 100% behind with a permanent Parklet solution, as discussed during the September 12th council meeting. The Parklet program has revitalized our community and brought more patrons to our restaurants and shops. We believe we can come to a solution that benefits our entire city, and we would like to work together to make this happen. I appreciate your time today. We've also collected names and phone numbers in several petitions and a couple of letters I'll leave with the city clerk. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Bosa. I'm a local here in Seal Beach. I live at River Beach Townhomes. I'm a small business owner. I don't own a restaurant, but I work at a hair salon, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Parklets also. I also owned Eeks, the paint your own ceramic store, over 20 years ago for a year with my father. I know we have issues with the Parklets. Parking seems to be one. The appearance of them is another. Those are two things that I think are pretty easily addressed. I do over 30 to 40 people a week. They come to me every 4 to 6 weeks. Most of my clients are coming to me from like 40 miles away because I just started doing business here about 4 years ago. They all comment how much they love the outdoor dining, how cute Seal Beach is, how quaint it is. A lot of them have never been here before. They bring their husbands, their kids, they get their hair done, and then they go have lunch outdoors. From there, they then go shopping. I believe the outdoor dining is bringing a lot of foot traffic to other businesses. I know businesses that aren't restaurants feel like maybe they're losing business. That is not the case with me or my other hairstylist friends in town. As far as the appearance goes, they've all discussed there's more permanent solutions to the appearance of the Parklets. We can all agree some of them are looking a little not so wonderful. The parking situation, parking has always been an issue. It will always be an issue in a small town. If I drive to Corona Del Mar or Balboa Island, I know it's going to be hard to park. I still go there. This notion that people are just driving away because they can't park in front of the business, I think is probably not true. I'm on the local Facebook pages and the moaning and groaning of, oh, I can't find anywhere to park. Well, you never can find anywhere to park here. Some of the Parklets clearly are not being used. Get rid of those. Charge the business owners to rent them. There are solutions to this, and I feel like if you got a committee together, we could find solutions. I believe things are a compromise. It feels like it's the restaurants against the other businesses, and the big majority of the issue is parking. Right now, there's probably 10 Parklets that we all know they're not going to use them. They're not going to pay for them. We're going to free up 10 parking spots instantly. That's a compromise. We just got 10 more parking spots back. That will make the small businesses happy and the restaurants would be happy. We're in a beach town with beautiful weather, and we all want to eat outdoors. I know a ton of people in town. I do a ton of people in town. I don't know anyone personally who doesn't want the parklets. And also this notion of we're turning into Seal Beach and people are drunk, and that's all we all know is not true. So once again, I am not a restaurant owner, but I am here speaking in favor of the parklets. And I would be more than happy to join any committee and talk to people and try to find a solution. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Tiffany Smith. I live here in Old Town, Seal Beach. I saw the parklets were on the agenda for tonight, and I wanted to speak to it. I had no idea that there's a bigger conversation going on, so I just have my notes that I had from earlier. So I'm deeply in favor, as just a resident, not a business owner, not a restaurant owner, or anything like that. I'm just a resident. I am deeply in favor of keeping the outdoor dining on Main Street. My family says it's because I've lived internationally and cafe culture is something I'm really into. I just think outdoor dining has elevated Seal Beach. I think it brings us more people, as some of the business owners have said, and just it's just a positive. And yes, as other people have said as well, there do need to be cleaned up. There does need to be standards and things like that. But I think just eliminating them and apparently last minute notice doesn't seem fair at all to listening to the voice of the people or the business owners that are in this community. I am 3 blocks from Main Street, so I have a deep impact on, this deeply impacts me. I think it contributes to the revenue of the business restaurants, I imagine, because of the tabletops, additional tabletops for the revenue for the businesses, and it draws people in. Yes, we need to make sure we're accommodating for regular businesses, not just the restaurants, of course, keeping them clean, standardized, and things like that. But you guys have traveled around. When you go to another town and you're with your screaming children or your husband or your partner or whoever, and you're walking around, you're not really stopping and seeing everything. When you have outdoor dining, not only do you get to experience the wonderful food and the offerings that our restaurants have, but sitting there, you get to find other businesses. I've sat at the backyard the other day and saw a business I never saw. Katrina Cafe. I had no idea I'd be sitting next to that gentleman. Katrina Cafe, I did not know it existed until the parklet was there. And then I discovered it was a restaurant. Now I go all the time. Sorry, my thing went away. We're a beach city meant to be lived outdoors. We enforce outdoor living in our great small town community. And having outdoor dining is such a communal experience where you can have with your family, friends, neighbors. Look at the gentleman in front of Javatini every morning, right? It's that community building when you have this outdoor environment, as well as the layers of people being afraid of being indoors to eat and things like that. It also is great for sand, dogs, surfboards, all the things we have here so that they can stay outside. I agree there should be rules and regulations that ensure structure and fairness to everybody. But taking them away would be an antiquated move backwards, and I believe we would see a reduction in people in already an often empty Main Street. When I'm walking on Tuesday nights and there's nobody out there on Main Street, it breaks my heart. I want more people here. Anything that will draw people in to provide money to our community, I think is a positive. I hope you can find an amicable solution for all without taking away such a wonderful addition to our community. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Lisa Landau. I'm running for Seal Beach City Council, District 3. And first would like to also thank Betty for all of her service and making sure all the kids got across 12th and PCH safely. Like my child, he gets a little wild sometimes, so I made sure he got across okay. But that is a very dangerous intersection. So the crossing guards that do PCH, I think they go above and beyond because that is a dangerous location. And that is why I would like to champion Sarah's Light to prevent another tragic loss like we did with Sarah Kruger. We are very blessed at McGaw to have some great crossing guards. We had Miss Sylvia, rest in peace. She was amazing. I was very blessed to be able to have her be kind of a godmother to Cody. And also I was blessed to be able to work with her as a Seal Beach police volunteer. Also, I would like to say thank you to the Seal Beach Police Department, Lieutenant Nicholas, for surviving gun violence. It was December 8th at McGaw. It was amazing. Chief Henderson was there, Detective Sergeant Hendricks, and a bunch of other officers. It was a great, great program. If they do it again, more people really should be encouraged to go. I feel as a parent, knowing that my child, he's now out of La Salle, but all of our other kids here in town, I think are going to be a lot safer if, God forbid, something does happen on any of our campuses. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Matthew Terry. I live in Old Town Seal Beach, and I've spoken about the parklets at the subcommittee council meeting in October, as well as in the Sun newspaper in support of the parklets. When I first heard the city council was going to have a meeting on the parklets today, I already had an idea of exactly what I wanted to say. It was going to be something along the lines of, parklets bring an enjoyable experience to Main Street for a large subset of people, and that any concerns of the parklet itself can easily address in the program's design standards, and that permanent parklets will be wholly different from the pseudo parklets that you see now. I was also planning on talking about how, parklets do take away some parking on Main Street, but there's always been a need to address the incoherent parking system on Main Street, even before the parklets, and that would have been a good time to reevaluate the entire parking system to mediate any loss of parking, as well as improve the system overall. I'm confident a solution can be found, especially considering that on any given day there's about 50 to 100 open parking spots at the beach lots. I was going to end the speech talking about how public space that if you really think about it, the public space on Main Street is 80 feet wide down the entire street. So basically it's from storefront to storefront, from one side of the street to the other side of the street is 80 feet. And if you actually take the measurements, the sidewalks themselves are actually roughly about 12 feet wide. That means that there's 56 feet left for cars and car-related activities. That means that 70% of the public space on Main Street right now is just asphalt dedicated to the sole use of the car. And so all I'm asking for with the parklets is just to give us up a small amount of that. But when I saw the report that the City Community Development Department included in today's meeting packet, I decided to scrap that speech and talk directly to the report. And while the report does outline some challenges with putting together a program, I don't think it's insurmountable. Just a cursory search online finds that there are several beach cities pursuing a permanent parklets program. However, there's one paragraph in the report that really sums up the situation we're in, that you all are voting on today. And the paragraph reads as this. Despite the challenges outlined here, staff believe there is room for change on Main Street, potentially including limited permanent parklet dining. Restaurants are a key reason people visit any retail area, and Main Street is no exception. The parklets help to activate the streetscape and support the businesses that draw people to Main Street, which in turn support other businesses by attracting customers. Supporting businesses is an important role for each city, however, must recognize the limitations that exist. Simply put, the city's existing staffing cannot keep up with state mandates alone, which unfortunately means community projects such as the parklets suffer the consequences. Meaning that this is something we'd like to have on, it'd be great for Main Street, and we can't have it if we want to, but we're broke. So out of all the various programs and studies that the City Council has thrown money at over the years, it baffles me that this one isn't included, especially since most of the cost isn't even burned by the city, and if successful, would be a significant revenue booster. This brings me to something I've thought about on occasion, even before the parklets. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Seal Beach and Old Town, and it's the only place that I would ever want to live in. But when I talk to people about all the cool things that make up Seal Beach, and there's a lot that we currently have, I'm also reminded of all the cool things we used to have and lost over the years. Like, the sandcastle contest, or the AVP beach volleyball, or one time we had the X Games in the South Side parking lot, the Kite Festival, the Easter Parade, or dare I say it, the Band on the Sand, or even cool things that we could have had like the Farmers Market. I know the city council has little to no control over some of those things, but today we have something in front of us right now that is enjoyed by many that brings a positive impact to Main Street environment, and all I'm saying is don't let this be another cool thing that we used to have. Since I have a minute, there was another thing I did want to talk about that's on the other part in terms of trying to find ways we can save money. I was just wondering, maybe this is just something that Orange County just doesn't allow for basically because of the way the voting system is set up. But is there a reason why we don't use ranked choice voting for our election system? Because then that would eliminate the need to do runoffs. And so that would be a significant amount of savings in terms of.
30 seconds to wrap up.
Hopefully everybody's. I can't summarize in 30 seconds, but it would basically make it so then we all just vote on on the general election, and that an instant runoff would make it so then we don't have to do runoffs. Just so it save money, but also it also make it so then because there is a significant voter drop off in the runoffs in District 1 in the 2010 and 2018 runoffs, there was a 20 or 30% drop off. So it would definitely help with participation as well.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Carter, and we've been residents of Seal Beach for 7 years. I used to come here as a young girl from the bus all the way from Pasadena to eat at the end of the pier at Ruby's and to enjoy the day at the beach. And I love walking around our town. We live over in District 3, and we walk everywhere. So we're not clogging the parking, at least not downtown. But I'm just here to say I think the parklets add a charm and beauty, and I actually find I spend more money in other stores because after we eat, we usually walk and stop at a store and pick up something for my mom or ourselves. So I would just respectfully say I think parklets make our town better, and I hope there's a way we can keep them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Wyatt. I am a 21-plus year resident of Seal Beach. I don't own a business, but I frequent most of our businesses here in town. Also, a person in favor of the parklets. I think it has changed the dynamic of our Main Street. You see, it's a little more vibrant than it used to be. It started out of necessity from an unfortunate circumstance, and it's turned into a great asset. I previously lived in Los Alamitos before I moved to Seal Beach 21 years ago, and we would come to Seal Beach as a destination to dine predominantly, surf, dine, shop. Parking was an issue then, and it still is today. That doesn't stop my family that drive all the way from Granada Hills to come out here to visit, to have dinner. They like to go to Hennessy's. That's their place because they like to go and they like to do karaoke on Sunday nights. But they come to Seal Beach as a destination regularly. They typically park in one of the beach lots. We have excessive parking in our beach lot, the 7th Street lot. We have a lot of good places to park. I think the movement towards alfresco dining is everywhere. We're seeing it also in the closure of even closed-air malls. Those are closing. Everybody wants to be outdoors. It's a new trend. I think majority of our businesses, the businesses that I have spoken to, have seen an increase in business in the last few years. Sure, there's been an unfortunate in that really early part of 2020, but I think we're seeing a resurgence. People come here as a destination. People want to dine outside. If anybody was out, when we have the rain, people are still sitting under umbrellas in the rain. And if that isn't a testament to the value of these parklets, I don't really know what is. I don't think we're going to resolve our parking problem by getting rid of the parklets. I don't think that's the issue. But I do think having the parklets, having a plan, having an additional committee that maybe has residents participate, and I think there's a number of us that would be willing to participate, in determining permanent structures that are cohesive, that bring value and bring vibrancy to our community, I think is the way that we need to go. So I'm all in favor of them. I hope they don't go. I was sitting out there the other day in the rain, so I'm a big fan. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I think I still have a couple seconds of time. The Seal Beach Chamber isn't necessarily taking, we just want to note a correction under the brief history that you've received. Under the brief history, it notates AB 61, parklets requirement relief until January 1st of 2024, only because I know a ridiculous amount of information about this particular law. Just to correct it, that it's July 1st of 2024. I just wanted that correction noted.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Brita Lemon. I have Brita's Old Town Gardens on Main Street for 25 years now. It's a shame that we had such short notice for the committee meeting, because in that meeting, it was really helpful to hear everyone's sides. We had pro and against, and some constructive things did come up, but the practical things, which are reflected in the report, did make a big point. Coastal Commission shuts all of the parklets down in 1 year, January 1, 2024. Without a permit process in place, because they're still trying to blend it, they have been doing their research. What has been missed is the details. To build out a proper parklet can cost between $15,000 to $28,000. That is the history they found in researching this. To ask anyone to do that when they probably can't even get through the permitting process till almost June or July of this coming year, they wouldn't do it for a 6-month waiting period. It was suggested, why don't we get the parklets that are underutilized out, get rid of the dirt, get rid of the ugliness, go after Coastal Commission clearance. That's the big key. Without this, none of this discussion means anything. We have only 12 months, and then it's dead. So the city needs to spend what resources it has to find out if we have an argument and Coastal can be convinced to let parklets exist. There were so many good suggestions at that meeting that no one really, everything from having to spend the money to making Main Street a one-way street so we could make our sidewalks broader and have outdoor dining on our own sidewalks and not take any parking away. From doing a bistro table permits, or what a city could do that isn't as costly is streamline permitting for changing the fronts of restaurants with a restaurant owner and its landlord working together to open them up. It's a very successful format at Hennessy's. Not anyone houses the space that like Crema has, but if restaurants could easily change their fixed windows to bifold windows, they could be creating that outdoor experience in their fixed units that they're already paying rent on. And that's something that might be expedited as a city council to get this going so we can have the experience that every one of us has liked being out there. It was an amazing thing the city did to get us through COVID. Now we have to do the stark reality of what is fair. But primarily, when you looked at what the square footage could be accomplished for any one restaurant, the maximum any restaurant that has to put out tables would only garner them 4 by the time they were handicap compliant, safety compliant. 4 tables for spending $28,000? That has not been really addressed. Again, it's a lofty goal. We love it. But the practical application is we're not going to get much. So in the interim, the recommendation from the committee, the parklets, the old parklets that are not able to be salvaged need to come down, and let's go after what can be done and then make the city go forward. That's my take on this.
Joyce, Ross Parquet, Old Town Seal Beach. Do we talk about this now or when it comes up? Do we have to wait till the end of the meeting? Or do we talk, are you going to have a chance to talk then?
It's not a public hearing, so everyone needs to speak now.
Ah, not a public hearing. Okay. I've been a resident for close to 50 years. This is the first time we've ever had parklets on Main Street. Now, do they pay rent for each spot for 2 hours? You have to pay, to park on Main Street now every 2 hours. So people now can't pay to go into the restaurants. And the parklets overtake a lot of other business people out there. We need the money from the rental, we need the money from the spots that are being taken from us. They are really disgusting. Our trees on Main Street haven't been trimmed for almost 3 years now? Christmas parades, you have to sit, you can't even take your kid without knowing what's going to happen because of having to sit out there behind the parklets on Main Street. Some of them, residents don't even come to eat down close to the bank. That one never opens up until late. And when I'm walking up and down the street, because I have a mailbox on Main Street, there's nobody inside. They're all outside. There's nobody inside. They're taking up space, not paying the rent that we should be, the money we should get from parking too long on Main Street. They're not paying for anything. They have empty places to have food. The only time, even Walls Wharf doesn't even open up upstairs. Why? Because, look, there's like 4 different businesses, and there's just rows of seats that are dirty. The trees need to be trimmed. The streets need to be cleaned for our next parade. And if they can't afford to pay for those many lot times they've got, if they can't afford to pay the city that sells that tax, that money, because we don't have a lot of money from all of our property now. It goes to the state of California. So we need to do something about this. They need to be charged rent on the spaces they're taking too, on the street where people usually park. Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Caviola, 43-year resident of Seal Beach, Mayor Kalmick, council members, Jill, thank you for serving. We know that's a voluntary position, and it's not that easy because we come up and complain once in a while. And quite frankly, you haven't been here in a long time because things have been wonderful in Seal Beach. Within the last 10 years, they redid all of Main Street, $700,000 for the lights. All the trees that were missing were replaced, the concrete was fixed, the planters were put in. So now at the holidays, we see flags, the 4th of July, and hanging plants. And all that was done at about $1.5 million spent on Main Street. COVID came along, and you were very generous to let these people, about 6 people, occupy about 30% of the parking. It looks like hell. I work in Huntington Beach. The locals call it Mean Street. Go down there tomorrow. Go have lunch over there. I go there. I work there. Go to Belmont Shores. It's ruined. These parklets, they call them, are occupying public land. They're empty 90% of the time. I walk here. I live here. I lived here 43 years. I've been involved in all these things, making this place beautiful. We love the place. What do you think we pay here? But to watch this simple, selfish greed occupying public land, that's our land, okay? And everyone sitting up there knows that this is going to have to go through Coastal, and you're going to have to go to Coastal and tell them we're going to eliminate 30% of the parking on Main Street. And it's a waste of everybody's time, as Britta so clearly explained. to sit there now and talk about this mess. It looks like hell. And here are these merchants. And Joe, you were a merchant for 40 years or something. You've got to feel the pain of these people that have no parking, okay? And they're selling their products. It's a Christmas time, holiday season, and there's no parking. I walk on Sundays. I work, so I'm not here all day. But I come home. I live around here, and I go to Balboa. I go around. They don't allow this garbage. It's garbage. It's nonsense, okay? Someone needs to come through here with a truck and take it all out of here. They should have done this 6 months ago. You gave them the inch, they took a mile, and that's what you got going on here. And it's wrong, it's selfish, it's unfair, and no one likes unfairness. Nobody. And that's what this is unfair. It's a grab of public land. Of course, I've been to Paris, I've been to Carmel, I've been all over. Yeah, eating outside is wonderful. That isn't what the deal is here. They want to modify their real estate. Fine, do it. But out on the street, and another point, I'm an attorney. A car comes down the road and somebody has a stroke and wipes out these people. We're on the hook here in this city. Those things are so unsafe. There's been no plans to put those in there in a safe way. No protection. You see Turks down here where the car just went through it again. A car comes down his street and someone has a stroke, just like they did a few years ago up at the bus stop. Our city isn't liable for that, okay? You might want to check with your risk people because these things are like a bunch of garbage. And it looks like hell. It's an embarrassment for all the people like me who've been involved in this town and spent their own private money making it a beautiful town, participating in the community like we do. And then watch this. I don't think it's a half a dozen restaurant owners. Okay? And they're empty all the time. Again, thanks for serving, but this is really, really wrong. And it's so out of whack. If you're going to go to Coastal Commission and get some ideas with them first, but you got to get that stuff off the street. It looks like hell. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Calvin Mangione. I'm an Old Town resident. I wanted to speak to a couple things. First and foremost, as a resident, my enjoyment of the parklets. And then secondly, I wanted to speak to this from my background as a professional urban planner and having some experience kind of researching some of this stuff. I think every case is case specific, so it's difficult to generalize across the board, but there are a couple ideas here that as I've traced back kind of some of the history of this, and I'm late to the Seal Beach conversation, admittedly, but as I've traced back some of this, I think more than anything, what I wanted to just offer was an additional perspective here that an average parking space represents in the greater LA area anywhere between $20,000 to $40,000 of lost cost for a city. In other words, a city subsidizes a parking space at that cost. And so when we talk about businesses using that space and being it being some form of grab of public land, what we're actually seeing in that instance is an increase in sales tax that's happening, which means it's actually less subsidy that the government is paying for that land. It is actually more profitable from a government standpoint to provide that. Another sort of misnomer based on what I've seen across different studies that have evaluated parklets within the area. Parking, or rather parklets, are not the death of adjacent businesses who do not have parklets. Rather, they are to the benefit of those businesses. So if you have a restaurant that has a parklet and users coming to use that, what data shows is that in most instances, people are spending more, not just at the restaurant or facility that has that parklet, but at the adjacent businesses as well. So again, if we're talking about how we want to use our public land in a way that is most profitable for everyone, it would be as a parklet, not as a parking space. And then I think that's all I have to say within that context. I'm sure there are other things that we could talk about for days, but I'm excited to continue following this conversation and the evolution of it. I do think, though, that if you're trying to approach this from a strictly economical standpoint, it does not make much sense for the city to remove parklets in advance of being told or demanded by any coastal commission to do so. As I evaluate this and look at this, as both a resident who appreciates the hard work that the restaurants have gone through to implement this stuff and provide a resource for me as a resident, but also as someone who follows and tries to pay attention to urban policies that are in place, it would not make sense to remove this any sooner than you needed to. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, Karen Como, and I appreciate your time this evening. I'm a resident of Seal Beach for 28 years, and if Seal Beach Main Street doesn't have it, we probably don't need it. My husband and I made a commitment when we moved here that one of the things we would do was support our local businesses, and we have, and Joe, you know that. That is part of the aura of getting to live here. And we're on 10th Street. Parking is an issue even on 10th Street now that the parklets are in place. My husband and I, for one, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to a restaurant that hasn't washed their floors in 2 years. And that's really what we're facing. We're facing a lot more vermin. We're facing a lot of filth in those parklets that haven't been constructed appropriately. And it really goes to the fairness of the businesses that are on Main Street. We're not being fair to them. How many of the restaurants have you looked at and driven down and counted how many people are sitting in a parklet? Today at 1:15, in all of Main Street, there were 3 people sitting in a parklet. Yep, it was cold. A week ago Saturday, and that is Small Business Saturday, at 12:45, there were 6 people in a parklet. Is that a good use of our businesses and our parking and to help our business owners grow and prosper? I say no. It's not fair. It served its purpose during the pandemic. It was a great idea, and it helped our businesses stay in business, and we supported that. At this point, if someone has a parklet, we're not going to go there any longer. It's just not fair to the other businesses, and there's lots of opportunities for outdoor dining without a parklet, and some great restaurants that will serve you outside. So, I think we really need to take a look at where our city has gone in the way of fairness to all business owners, not just the restaurants, and those that don't even open until 5 o'clock, or how about the parklets that close at 2 and take up all that parking? We need to be fair to all business owners and actually help the people on 10th Street have family parking when they come to visit. It's impacted our parking as well. And now that the pandemic is over, it's time to move on and get rid of those parklets and re-examine the way that we'd like to be able to have that outdoor experience. Thank you.
Here we go.
Good evening, Mayor Kalmick and council members. My name is Diana Newton. I'm Vice President of Bay Hardware in Seal Beach. I want to say thank you to those of you who've reached out to me regarding the parklets issue and keeping me informed and updated of sort of the process and the progress that we've been making. I think I'd like to start by saying I realize that this issue has been very polarizing in our community, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there has been a lack of communication and maybe miscommunication going on, and it's unfortunate that I'm finding many restaurant owners who are friends of mine and retail establishments, those owners are friends of mine, and we're all kind of butting heads on this issue, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we all don't really know what's going on. There's been a lot of, the parklets are being extended, and now the parklets are coming down, and now, no, wait, sorry, they're being extended again. No, wait, nope, they're coming down again. I think we're all just really confused, and we're starting to get really emotional about what's going on because we don't know what the future looks like. And I think the point that I also would like to point out here is that the parklets they're actually called temporary parklets, and the key word there being temporary. And they were supposed to come down last year. They were supposed to come down at the end of November, I believe it was. Now it's been extended to January, and so on and so forth. And the last time I came up and spoke to the subcommittee at the last meeting that we had, I made several points, which I will not reiterate at this point in time. I know that they're all available somewhere online as part of the public information. But while I listen to what some of the restaurant owners say about, costs are going up and how am I going to afford this? I need the parklets to maintain my business and the success of my business. Many of the owners of the temporary parklets had establishments before the parklets went up, and they were successful before then. I strongly believe that they will be successful thereafter. I think I would like to voice my support for the recommendation, the staff recommendation, that the temporary parklets come down at the end of January. I think we all just need to sort of step back, regroup, come to an agreement amongst all of those on Main Street, something that we can all live with, that we can all get behind, and we can all start to do business together again. I also want to point out, based on what I've read here in the staff recommendation, it seems that there is a big issue as far as how we are going to be able to afford the parklet program as we move forward. If we're talking about having to hire 2 additional employees in order to handle not just what we have already that we know is coming down the pipeline in terms of the other, it sounded like state programs and things that need to be addressed. If there's already an issue with the staffing that we have currently to address those state issues that, Seal Beach does not have a choice whether they're going to comply with those or not, they must. I think that, when you're talking about another $310,000 a year to handle what the parklets will require just to get this up and off the ground, I think that that's something that needs to be considered. Additionally, I have not seen any studies on the environmental impact that the parklets would have if they were to become permanent in the future. I haven't seen any study on the parking impact that the parklets would have on the city. I haven't seen any study on the amount of sales tax that would be collected. I don't know if any of those things have been looked at or considered, or perhaps I just haven't seen them. But I think that those things also need to be taken into consideration. I suppose the long and short of what I'm trying to say is, I think we all just kind of need to take a breath here. I think that we need to do what's fair to the retail and service businesses on Main Street who have been very supportive of the parklets. Even when it was detrimental to our own businesses, we were still supportive because we knew that it was important for Main Street and the restaurants on Main Street to remain in place and get through
30 seconds to wrap up.
COVID. We're through COVID, and I think at this point, I don't want to speak for all of the other businesses on Main Street. I think we're just feeling like we're kind of starting to get the short end of the stick, and we would just like to, like I said, take a breath and move forward with a solution that's going to work for everybody. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Colvin English. I'm with Jennings & Allen. We're at 132 Main Street. Mr. Mayor, you and I have spoken on some other issues in the past. I am here tonight to say I do think that the parklet program should be allowed to expire. That does not mean that there's not an opportunity for it to come back. If it is studied well, Coastal Commission approves it, and it's taken into consideration these other things that everyone has pointed out being of major impact to both residents and other businesses in the city. What I see anecdotally is our parking is full and the parklets are empty. Parking is a problem. Everyone has come up and said parking is a problem. Parking is a problem. So having 15 to 30% of your parking taken up by non-parking spaces, non-parkable spaces, does have an impact. The problem that we have seen happening over the past year in Seal Beach is a traffic issue, is a foot traffic issue. We're not seeing the bodies that we're seeing, that we used to see, just walking down the street and coming into the stores. The parklet that's next to us, it has a new business in it, and which has been more successful. But over the course of the past 2 years, it's had 2 other businesses in it, which have not used it at all, and yet it's taken up 3 spaces for 2 years. So it has to be addressed how these spaces, and are they being used effectively? And I don't believe at this point in time they are being used effectively. Something was brought up too about who are we drawing onto Main Street? We consistently get customers from Huntington Beach. We consistently get customers who normally shop 2nd Street. All of them say, we come to Seal Beach because our main streets are nothing but restaurants and bars. We come here for the shopping experience as well. And if you want to do that in Huntington Beach, you can't. You can't take your family and walk down the street in Huntington Beach. There's nowhere to go. It's bars and restaurants. Same thing with 2nd Street. 2nd Street is turning into a much more corporatized environment of mostly restaurants and bars. And Main Street is offering something for the Long Beach community, the Huntington Beach community, that isn't offered in those communities any longer. And the diversity of that with both restaurants and shopping is what's keeping it alive and keeping that destination travel in place. So we have to learn, how are we going to support all the businesses here? And I don't believe that the parklets right now are serving all of the businesses that are on Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Colin Bagwell. I live on 8th Street, and I've lived here twice in my life. I lived here for 4 years. I moved away. Liked it so much I moved back. And there seems to be a very diverse number of opinions here. I look over at the City of Seal Beach values. It says excellent customer service. I think that's, citizens, it's business owners, it's everybody. And I spent a lot of money on Main Street. I went to Bay Harbor this weekend, Knock Knock as well. We use the parklets as well. I mean, I think it's a difficult question. I don't envy you guys at all. But the lady over there made an excellent point, which is that the law doesn't expire until July. So you have 17 months to figure this out. We're not letting it expire. I mean, we're retroactively ending it early. And it seems like we don't have a consensus. I, as a citizen, would prefer them to stay. I think there's some restaurant owners, 100%, who don't take care of them. They don't utilize them. But there's others that have stood up here today and said that they would appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys to find a solution. So I think my opinion is that the general consensus is that the citizens would prefer them, but it seems like you guys have plenty of time to figure this out, and I don't really understand why you would make a decision on this and end it when you have 17 months to figure that out. Seems like plenty of time to go to Coastal Commission. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, I'll close oral communications and thank everyone for their thoughtful input. Next, we have our city attorney's report. Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Mayor. Prior to the meeting this evening, the council met in closed session regarding the one item on the posted agenda. All members of the council were present, and the council took no reportable action.
Thank you. Madam City Manager.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have a few items tonight. First and foremost, wanted a formal opportunity. As all of you know, we had, over the past couple of weeks, some really extremely demanding and competitive internal recruitment processes that resulted in the promotion of Captain Michael Henderson as our new police chief, and this is his first council meeting tonight as our new chief. Chief, congratulations. Also with that, as a result of Chief Henderson's promotion, he in turn had the opportunity to promote 2 members of his command team. Lieutenant Nick Nicholas and Yosa have now been promoted to Captain Nicholas and Captain Yosa. And also our Detective Sergeant, Chris Hendricks, who's been with our city for several years, even longer than me at this point, who was promoted to lieutenant. So Lieutenant Hendricks, congratulations to you. So proud of all 3 of you and really honored and looking forward to working with the 3 of you in your new roles as the part of the command leadership team for the PD. And also I know the 3 of them, as well as several members of the police department who've been hired and promoted over the last 3 years now almost, that we haven't had the opportunity to officially and formally promote and recognize. We'll be doing that later this week and looking forward to that. We had a request on the second item tonight as part of tonight's meeting for us to publicly reaffirm the city's civility principles, and I can't think of a better time to do that than right now at the end of our calendar year and to begin 2023. As all of you will recall, this is an effort that the 5 of you have passionately supported. It's an effort that was brought to us under the leadership of our former city clerk, Robin Roberts. And so what I'd like to do is ask our city clerk, Gloria Harper, just to remind all of us, I know it's something that the council takes to heart. It's something that our staff team lives by each and every day, and something that we hope our community will as well. City Clerk Harper.
Thank you, City Manager Ingram. Mayor and members of the City Council, I just want, as you can see on the screen, it says, choose civility. That is a wave of social change which embraces and promotes meaningful dialogue between the City Council, the boards and commissions, staff, and the community. We're so grateful that back in September 2018, that the council approved this at their strategic planning meeting, and then they went on to approve it at the City Council meeting on October 22nd, 2018. We want you to know that staff remains dedicated and committed to choosing civility principles and the policy as we continue to interact with the City Council, the boards, commissions, and the committee, and the community. During challenging times or whenever we are in a big hurry, we become impatient, sometimes we become unkind. So this is just a reminder that as we start each day, as we start each meeting, as we start our lives day by day, let us be mindful of the choose civility principles and policy. With that, I'm just going to reiterate those policies. The first one is to treat everyone courteously. The second one is to listen to others respectfully. The third one is to exercise self-control. And number 4 is give open-minded consideration to all viewpoints, which is what we've done here tonight during public comment. Number 5 is focus on the issues and avoid personalizing debate. And finally, embrace respectful disagreement and dissent as democratic rights, inherent components of an inclusive public process, and tools for forging sound decisions. Again, we're just grateful for the council's continued support with this, and each day when we get up as city employees, we choose civility. Thank you, City Manager Ingram.
Thank you, Gloria. The third item I have tonight, as the council knows, through our community development block grant program, the city's offered a bathroom renovation program since 2005 for qualified residents in Leisure World. As part of federal COVID relief funds, there's a new grant opportunity that's available through the CDBG program that will potentially allow us, if we were awarded funding, to offer that program throughout the city. And so what I'd like to do is ask our Community Development Director, Alexa Smittle, just to briefly summarize the program and what that means for us, especially given that we have a tight time frame for application. Alexa?
Thank you, City Manager Ingram. That's exactly correct. Since 2005, the city has offered a bathroom renovation program to Leisure World to facilitate aging in place. And the program primarily cuts down bathtubs so that the unit becomes a walk-in shower, install grab bars, seating if necessary, change out toilets, those sorts of things. It's been very, very successful for the past 17 years. We have this one-time additional opportunity to offer this program outside of Leisure World using this additional federal assistance. It's a very short turnaround time, so we really need to expend the money by, I think, the end of June. And we won't get the award, assuming that the county moves forward to it, until January. So it's this really short window. We would be able to open up this program again to anyone in Seal Beach, but you do have to be 55 or older. You would still need a note from your doctor saying this is important for your health. And then there are income requirements. So the program is dedicated towards those below moderate income. So it would depend on how many people are living in your household, determines your eligibility. But again, we just think is such a great opportunity to use this grant money to assist others outside of Leisure World with this program. We're hoping to generate some interest. We're going to get a press release out and those sorts of things so that we can start lining up people that are interested in this program so we can move very quickly if we are awarded the funds. So if anyone is interested in learning more about this, I'm going to give you a phone number to call for kind of one-on-one assistance, which is 909-364-9000. You can also find information on the city's website under our senior services, which would give you a little more information, and the number to call is there and so forth. So again, we're just hoping we get interest now, get everyone on a list that's interested, and then move very quickly if we are awarded these funds.
Great, thank you, Alexa. And then finally, my last item tonight, just a few calendar reminders. As the council knows, is standard practice in our city as a result of the holidays. We have only one regular council meeting in December, and that would be tonight. City Hall will be closed like we normally do every year for the holidays, beginning on Friday, December 23rd through Monday, January 2nd, and then we will reopen for business on Tuesday, January 3rd. And then finally, just wanted to wish everyone, the council, our dedicated staff team, and the community a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, and a safe, healthy, and happy New Year. And that concludes my report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments. We'll start. Sandra?
I have nothing to report.
Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. I went to the tree lighting ceremony and the Christmas parade with my family, and it's a wonderful event. The city did a tremendous job, and also the Lions and the Leos did a wonderful job arranging the parade. It's always a very fun event. I brought my parents, my brother, and my in-laws all came and had a wonderful time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I also went to the tree lighting ceremony and the parade. It was a great event. Thank you to all the volunteers, the Chamber, Lions Club, City, Police Department. Great event. Really look forward to that every year. One of the best events in town. Thank you.
Shelley?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a State of OC Sanitation virtual event, very interesting. They're still using a lot of virtual events along with their opening up a bit. I attended a community open house for the Wested property that's being developed in Los Alamitos, a big turnout at the Ayers Hotel with a lot of citizens from College Park East interested in that project. I attended a holiday potluck at the City Yard. Thank you to Public Works for hosting that. That's always a fun event. I attended the tree lighting at Eisenhower Park. Thanks to the city, the Chamber, Republic Service, and the Lions. I attended Small Business Saturday on Main Street, and I was happy to see a lot of business there. Saw Mr. English's store. Happy to see where they are now. I attended a bike lane meeting with Iris, our acting Public Works Director, and the Seal Beach Christmas Parade. And just this weekend, Breakfast with Santa. I also attended the Surviving Gun Violence meeting at McGaw. I'd like to thank McGaw and Principal Wood for sponsoring that. I'd like to thank Seal Beach PD for giving a lot of good information. It wasn't just about school safety, it was about safety wherever you are, because they pointed out that a lot of times this violence is in retail or in the grocery store, or in the mall, somewhere like that, and just points for you to be aware of wherever you are, if something happens, what you should do. So it was run, hide, fight, right? That was the takeaway. So hopefully, maybe we'll hear a presentation from them, maybe for us in the future. So that'd be great. So anyway, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the tree lighting and the parade and Breakfast with Santa, and it's just one more feeling that we get of how close our community is, from all ages and all areas of the city. And so it makes me happy to still be here, vertical, and be able to participate in so many of these things. As this is our last official council meeting of the year, I want to thank our staff who have worked so diligently under the absolute worst possible conditions that anybody has ever experienced, ever, to work as hard as they've done to keep our city safe in terms of our police department, the city staff, and all of the projects that they've had to work on that came to us from the sky, from the state, that they are still working tirelessly to try and accomplish, and still be able to offer services to our residents, to answer questions, and to thank our residents for being patient and understanding that this has been an unusual past 3 years or so, and we're not out of it yet. So, and I'm just wanting to wish everybody in the community Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas and a happy beginning of a healthy new year, and maybe a year better for all of us. So thank you. Next, council items, and I'm going to call on our city clerk to declare the results of the November 8th, 2022 election, swear in the newly elected city official, provide for runoff election in District 3 and District 5.
Thank you, Mayor
Gloria.
Kalmick. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor Kalmick. Mayor and members of the City Council, City Manager Ingram, and members of the public, the item before you tonight is to adopt Resolution 7348, declaring the results of the November 8th, 2022 election, to swear in the newly elected city official for a full 4-year term ending in 2026, Council District 1, Joe Kalmick, and confirming the need for a mailed ballot runoff election in Districts 3 and 5 on Tuesday, January 31st, 2023, as well as provide direction for the runoff election. The City of Seal Beach election was held on November 8th. The canvass and the certification of the election was completed on December 2nd by the Orange County Registrar of Voters Office. The results are as followed. All of the votes counted that were received at the vote center were 247. Vote by mail ballots cast in the election was 1,926. That's 1,926. For a total ballots cast, 2,339. Council District 1, Joe Kalmick, the incumbent, he received 1,197 votes, or 51.20%. His challenger, Greg Barton, received 582 votes, or 24.89%. And Christopher DeSanto received 559 votes, or 23.91%. In District 3, Stephanie Wade received 967 votes, or 45.25%. Lisa Landau received 912 votes, or 42.68%, whereas Fred McSude received 258 votes, or 12.7%. In Council District 5, Nathan Still received 1,308 votes, or 44.9%. Marianne Klinger received 641 votes, or 22.05%. Michael J. McGrawdy received 593 votes, or 20.40%, whereas Jonathan Rich received 365 votes, or 12.56%. Therefore, pursuant to the Seal Beach Charter Section 509, as no candidate received a majority of 50% plus one of all the votes cast in District 3 and District 5, the two candidates receiving the highest number of votes for such office are to be printed on the ballots for the runoff election. Seal Beach Charter 502 provides that that date is set for July 31st, 2023. The estimated cost for this election will be $60,000. The election is included in the fiscal year 2022-23 budget, and there will be other minimal costs. Staff recommends that the City Council adopts Resolution 7348, declaring the results of the election, November 8, 22 election, swearing the newly elected city official for a full 4-year term, District 1, Joe Kalmick, and confirming the need for the runoff election in District 3 and District 5 for Tuesday, January 31st, 2023, and providing directions for the runoff election. This concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Council questions? None.
Okay, seeing that there are no questions, Mayor Kalmick, would you please meet me at the podium for the official swearing in?
Don't we need to, Gloria, should we do the resolution first?
We can.
That declares the result.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's declare your result. Yes.
Okay, could I have a motion and a second?
I'll move that we accept the information and the resolution and Joe Kalmick.
Second.
I'll second.
Please vote on your iPad.
Councilmember Sistarsik,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Verapapa,
Yes.
Mayor Kalmick,
Yes?
Councilmember Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Masalave.
Yes.
That passes.
Motion carries 5 votes yes.
Oh, okay, now. Are you locking the door so I can't escape?
Oh, be careful. Is that where you want to stand?
Let's do it this way.
Okay. Gonna raise your hand or no? Okay. Repeat after me. I
I, Joe Kalmick,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
California
the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and the
California,
Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully
faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, I did. Yep.
There we go, two.
This one is-
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are enacted by a single motion with the exception of items removed by council members, and there were none. So I'll call for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar at this time.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Have a move.
Second.
Please vote.
I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries 5 votes yes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Next is going to be a public hearing. Item F, which is the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Seal Beach City Council, amending the City of Seal Beach Municipal Code by modifying Title IX, Chapter 9.6 Building Code thereof, and adopting by reference the 2022 California Building Code, 2022 California Residential Code, 2022 California Electrical Code, 2022 California Mechanical Code, 2022 California Plumbing Code, 2022 California Fire Code with certain amendments. We'll stop there.
Well said.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we have an item before you. It's a second reading and a public hearing for an ordinance modifying Title IX of the Seal Beach Municipal Code, adopting the 2022 California Construction Codes with certain amendments. This ordinance, first introduced at the October 24th City Council meeting, was for first reading, and staff recommends waiving further reading, adopting Ordinance 1700. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Is this code very different than last year's?
That's a great question. It's a little bit different in certain ways, and it's the same in many ways. The difference is the green code is a little bit more restrictive, as well as the energy code. Most of the codes are just continuations of existing codes. There's not much change in the structural or electrical. The biggest change you're going to see here in Seal Beach will be re-roofs now require insulation as an addition to re-roofing more than 50% of the roof. HVAC or mechanical changeouts will also require insulation to be added to the roof if you don't already have insulation. So those are the major changes. Some of the multifamily buildings, which we don't have a whole lot of multifamily new buildings, will require solar to be added. So those are the major changes to the code.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So I'll now open the public hearing. Any members of the public that wish to address the council regarding these items? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And any additional council questions before we put this one to bed?
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Look at that.
That carries 5-0. Okay, excuse me. Under new business, item J, the introduction and first reading of ordinance amending portions of Title II of the Seal Beach Municipal Code regarding the process for all mailed ballot municipal elections and required campaign reporting for the municipal runoff elections. So we'll call on our city clerk once again to explain this to us.
Wow. Thank you, Mayor Kalmick. Mayor and members of the City Council, City Manager Ingram, and members of the public, this item tonight is the introduction and the first reading of Ordinance 1702, and it is amending the Seal Beach Municipal Code to properly align the city's mailed ballot election regulations with state law and provide for pre-election campaign reporting for the municipal runoff election. Again, as you've heard previously, that we held the general municipal election on November 8th, and because no candidate from Districts 3 and 5 received a majority of the votes, a runoff election will be held. The city charter and the municipal code calls for an all-mail ballot when no candidate receives a majority of the vote. Sometime back, the city elected to have runoff elections conducted by the Orange County Register of Voters office rather than by the city clerk. The ROV normally follows the election codes when conducting those mail ballot elections. However, the election codes were updated in 2019 and in 2020 to increase voter participation and to deal with the 2020 pandemic. As a result of those changes, the municipal code is outdated and does not recognize that the ROV will conduct the runoff election. On November 22nd, I received an email from the Register of Voters office requesting clarifications on some of the inconsistencies between the ROV's normal procedure under state law and some of the local provisions found in the Municipal Code Section 2.05.020. The city attorney and I reviewed the areas where the ROV requested clarification and determined that this would be the best course of action to update the municipal code to reduce any potential confusion. Therefore, the proposed changes that will become effective with this 2023 municipal runoff election, and those changes are, we're clarifying that the city clerk is the election official and that the ROV is performing a service at the request of the city when the ROV conducts the election. We're also clarifying that state law rules for distributing and returning mail ballots in an all-mail ballot election also apply to the municipal runoff election. This will also allow the voters to return their ballots to the county ROV. They could even drop their ballot off at the ROV's office. There's a drop box there, or they can take it inside. There will be 2 drop boxes here in Seal Beach that they could also drop their ballots, and they will also be able to drop the ballot in the city clerk's office on the day of the election. The municipal code required the city clerk to check the identifications of persons returning mail ballots in person, which is now inconsistent with state law, and that is part of the municipal code that is being repealed. We also wanted to clarify that the ballots returned by mail are postmarked by January 31st will be counted if received by the ROV by February 3rd, 2023. Any ballots returned in person must be returned no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, January 31st, 2023. And lastly, the other clarification is that the ROV can begin to process those returned ballots 29 days before the election as permitted by law. The municipal code only allowed them to start processing 7 days before. These clarifications will improve the administration of all mail ballot elections. Additionally, the municipal code does not currently require pre-election campaign finance reports prior to the municipal runoff election. The passage of this ordinance will add that requirement for 2 reports prior to the runoff election, similar to what took place in the regular election. And this also meets the schedule suggested by the FPPC. Because this ordinance is related to an election, this ordinance will take place immediately upon the second reading and adoption pursuant to City Charter Section 416. The cost for administration of this ordinance will be negligible. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Council introduce, read by title only, and waive further reading of Ordinance 1702, an ordinance of the City of Seal Beach amending the Seal Beach Municipal Code to properly align the city's mail ballot election regulations with state law and provide for pre-election campaign reporting for municipal runoff elections. This concludes my report, and the city attorney and I are available for any questions.
Any questions
No.
regarding that bit of legalese?
I'm sorry?
Okay, then we'll call for a motion and a second to approve.
I'll move it.
I'll move.
Do you need a second?
Yes.
I'll do a second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Oh, it didn't show up, but it's
Didn't
there.
work again.
No, it actually worked, but I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Councilmember Starsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Verapapa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries 5 votes yes.
Very good, thank you.
We just need to read that, Mayor. It's ordinance number 1702, an ordinance of the City of Seal Beach amending the Seal Beach Municipal Code to better align the city's mailed ballot election regulations with state law and provide for pre-election campaign reporting for municipal runoff elections. I would just note for the council and public's benefit that the second reading of this ordinance is contemplated at a adjourned regular meeting in the next week or so it can be in effect immediately and apply to the runoff election. And I think you'll make that announcement at the end of the meeting, Mayor, as I understand it.
Okay. Item K, proposed changes to the temporary parklet program that requests that the City Council adopt Resolution 7353 concluding the temporary parklet program. And we'll first call on our city manager to open the discussion about this.
Yes, Mayor, thank you, and council. And before I turn this item over for presentation to our Community Development Director, Alexis Smittle, I just wanted to take an opportunity, if I could, please, just to provide some context here. I think undoubtedly there's none of us here that would disagree with anything that's been said tonight. And unfortunately, it feels like it's a no-win situation, really, for all of us. And it's not a matter of simply continuing to support restaurants, businesses, parking, store frontage, outdoor dining, or even parklets, for that matter. We all support all businesses in our community. It's much more complex than that, and that's specifically the reason behind what brought us to the recommendation that's before you tonight, and it's not an easy place for us to be. It isn't, but it's our reality right now. We've continued over many years talking with council. I know we talk about it at our strategic planning meetings. The fact that this city has a very lean staffing model with a really tight budget, especially in our community development department. And even so, in the beginning of the pandemic, and several speakers tonight mentioned that we were still able, with the staffing that we have, to be able to tilt up outdoor dining parklets in an effort to help all of our businesses, specifically our restaurants, survive through the pandemic. And yet, here we are 2.5 years later, and given the amount of staff resources that we know it takes and that it requires of us to manage and enforce the temporary parklet program right now in this city for us, in our community, we can't continue to support the demands of developing, managing, and enforcing a more permanent program, or even pursue the required coastal development permit process through the Coastal Commission with our current staffing. And as you will hear from Alexa tonight, the even greater challenge, and this was also mentioned tonight because it's mentioned in our staff report, that even with the addition of 2 new additional full-time staff members in the Community Development Department, the highest priorities first and foremost are those that we're already working on, and those are state-mandated requirements specifically related to housing and zoning in our community, including the housing element, with very severe consequences to this city and our community for non-compliance, as well as recent case law that we've brought to you related to short-term vacation rentals that will require a significant dedication of staff time to develop a new program and then try to enforce it. And these are just a few of many. We outlined some more in the staff report of the highest priorities that we have right now, and we just don't have the adequate staffing levels and funding to address what we already have in front of us right now, much less continuing to expect more from us. And I know it's really difficult for everyone to hear that, but it's our reality right now. And there's so much work and so many projects in front of us and not nearly enough staffing and funding to get us across the finish line. And so, having said that, I would just respectfully request the council that you please keep all of that in mind as Alexa makes her presentation to summarize the staff report. And of course, we'll be available for questions after that. Alexa?
Thank you, City Manager Ingram, and good evening again, council members. I have the remote. I'd like to start with a very quick summary of where we've been with the parklets, and I will keep it extra short because I know that we've all heard this very recently and that everyone's pretty much up to speed with where we've been with the parklets. The temporary program was established early in the pandemic during the lockdown in order to help restaurants stay alive. The state provided relief in the form of relaxing certain parking restrictions as well as alcohol restrictions to allow the parklets to be established. And in June 2020, the city released their temporary parklet program, allowing restaurants to come in and apply for a permit to operate temporarily outdoors. And many communities did this. It's not just Seal Beach. And parklet permits that were issued by the city were temporary in nature, and they were originally set to expire when the operational restrictions were lifted by the state. So once you could go back indoors to dine, that was the original timeline of those permits. But while restrictions on indoor dining have been gone for more than a year, Assembly Bill 61 was passed by the Senate or by the state, which extended modifications to parking standards for outdoor dining. And I'd go ahead and let the city attorney correct me. He's more versed in the law than I am. But the way that I read specifically Business and Professions Code Section 65907 is that that bill only extends parking relief until January 1st. It extends other types of relief longer, including alcoholic beverage service. It's kind of an interesting bill, and when you read the summary, it frankly doesn't give a very clear picture of what's actually in the bill. But, and again, the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is my read, that the parking relief is only through January 1st. And because of that state extension, the city's desire to see restaurants succeed, to continue to come out of the pandemic, it's not automatic. Everyone needs to build their business back up and live in this new environment. So we have continued to extend the parklet permits administratively on several occasions. Over the last couple years, about half of the original parklet owners have terminated their parklet, and almost all remaining parklets, 14 now, are on Main Street, and they utilize street parking for outdoor dining. A slightly expanded version of this summary was provided to the City Council in September so that the Council could provide direction on the future of the parklet program. And at that meeting, the Council formed a subcommittee of Mayor Kalmick and Mayor Pro Tem Vera Papa and directed staff to provide a proposal for a new parklet program to the subcommittee. As you've heard tonight, there are varying opinions on the parklets. And everyone has really good points and very valid opinions. And people do like to eat outside for health, for ambiance, for your kids, for your dogs. They are a point of visual activity. I went to planning school too. We talk about that stuff. How do you activate streets and how do you enliven spaces and bring people in? But others really do feel the loss of the parking stalls and the placement of parklets. People feel that impacts their business, and all those things are true. They're not mutually exclusive. As we've discussed, most people agree that parklets can look pretty bad. Code enforcement spent an extensive amount of time this summer working with parklet owners, giving them written instructions on how to improve the look of their parklets. And it is an uphill battle. We have some parklets that are very well maintained and other parklets that, they clean up for a little bit when code enforcement comes down on them, and then it kind of relaxes again. So it's a continual work in progress to make those work. In addition, we do bill the parklets for those K-rail barriers. It's a monthly invoice, and every month we have restaurants that don't pay them. Sometimes it's 2 or 3, sometimes it's more than half of them. And then we're tracking that down every month to pay for those K-rail barriers because the city rents them. So at that October subcommittee meeting, staff presented some basic parameters of a revised parklet program. It included rules, some design standards for construction of elevated parklets, so actually up off the ground, and consideration for mitigation fee for the parklet owners to pay for continued use of the public parking space. And I'd like to summarize just a little bit of feedback from the subcommittee, who expressed the desire at that time for more information on mitigation fees, so a greater level of analysis on market rents and where that fee should be set at. A detailed and specific plan on how parklet upkeep would be enforced, including clear standards and regular inspections, because as discussed, it seems that that's necessary. A plan to address the expiration of AB 61 and try to obtain a local coastal permit to extend reduced parking on a more permanent basis. Main Street merchants to work together for the good of everyone. As we know, we have a lot of opinions, and to receive more community input and have more council conversation on this topic. This is all perfect feedback from the subcommittee, in my opinion. It's what should happen if a parklet program were to become permanent, because this is a big deal, but it is a lot of work. I have thought a lot about what to say to you this evening, and I know that you've read the staff report, but sometimes it's just a little bit different when you're saying it in person. I hate not doing stuff. I do. I want to get it all done. I want to have, a working merchants group in downtown. I'd love to amend the specific plan and modernize that. All of those things I absolutely want to do, but I can't. We have limitations, and I feel that the state has dealt us just blow after crushing blow. We have 5 general plan elements to amend. 5, that's practically the whole general plan. In most communities, that's a 2 to 3 year process, $1 million to do it all. I mean, this is extensive amount of work. It includes the housing element. I've shared multiple times at different council meetings the challenges we face, and we are continuing to face those challenges. We have discussions with HCD, and we are not yet there to where we can have our sites blessed and have our plan blessed. It's a continual work in progress to try to get there. The housing element comes with its own work plan, including updating the zoning code. That means another environmental impact report. There's all kinds of other things in the housing element that need to be accomplished. ADU laws have changed again. We really should have objective design standards for housing developments. There have been other bills not related to the general plan, including a couple this year for code enforcement, which we are overwhelmed by cases right now. I have a number of elevated cases that are on my desk that I'm working on. We've been asked by the state law to provide inspections to rental units, and we are supposed to provide feedback on asbestos, mold, and rodent infestation. We don't have that kind of expertise on staff. Very few cities do. And in fact, I've spoken to the county and they don't have expertise on some of those things. Those are actually things that are monitored by the state, specifically asbestos and mold. It's constant. In addition to just lack of adequate staffing to address all of these things that have been put on our plate, we do have some strict timelines on the parklet with state relief for parking ending in a year. And to do this right, what was suggested by the subcommittee, we're talking months before anyone is constructing a parklet platform as staff proposed. It's a big ticket expense for a restaurant, a minimum of $15,000, probably more, potentially substantially more, and they may not be able to use it for very long. And we don't know until we try, but the Coastal Commission generally feels that parking is very important. So the idea of them just letting us give up some spaces without any mitigation, I don't have high hopes at this point. And again, I do want to do it all, and we can with resources, but I can't sit here and do my job without telling you that I cannot recommend we move forward with this project or any other community development type project until we address these very, very pressing priorities, which as City Manager Ingram come with very serious repercussions for the city if we don't get them done. I must recommend that we focus on those things, and unfortunately that means that this program would not have staff support just in terms of manpower, not even willingness, just manpower. And that concludes my presentation to you, but I'm happy to answer questions where I can.
Questions or comments? Well, I, for one, would have to say that I'm surprised it took this long to reach that conclusion. This has been, personally, it's been a very, painful pathway to come to some kind of a conclusion, because virtually everything that everybody proffered this evening is well taken. The 25 or so emails that I received, which were mostly in support of keeping the parklets, but I also received 20 or so back when the people were talking about not wanting the parklets. But I think that almost has to be put aside at this point, because I can't ask that department to work any harder than they're already working. You didn't mention the vacation rentals. And all of these things, they may sound simple. It's like, well, call the Coastal Commission, invite them to town, sit them down, and talk about what? Talk about raising the fees in our beach parking lots that we've been trying to do for 4 years. Talk about the ADU situation. Talk about parklets. Talk about, it's all intertwined. And it's not like we're dealing with different departments within the Coastal Commission. It's the Long Beach office, and it's, I imagine, some of the same folks, that are our agent that we deal with, and they're in no hurry. There's nothing forcing them to issue building permits or to issue statements or to, give us some direction. They just sit back and say, well, this doesn't seem clear to me. I was aware of this when in asking questions about, so what's up with our housing element that's been rejected twice. And I saw the 8-page letter that we got back from HCD, Housing Community Development Department, talking about the Navy property as an example, that where they're prepared to, this has nothing to do with us per se, other than the fact that they want to lease 29 acres of property that is relatively surplus for them. They don't want to accept that as a possibility for us to declare that 120 some units could be built there, because the Navy won't
Decommission
the property. They'll only lease it for 99 years. So what are we supposed to do? Plus the fact that they wanted more information. They basically wanted a plan for how what we were proposing might be rezoned for when nobody's come forth with any kind of a proposal to offer the Navy and to say that they want to lease the property. So what are we supposed to do? Sit here and make up some fantasy proposal that we might get them to buy off on? In the meantime, we have to keep responding to this and responding to that. The whole thing now is starting at the bottom, vacation rentals. 2 appellate court cases declared that you can't limit vacation rentals. And that was City of Santa Barbara and I think City of Hermosa Beach. So here we are restricting the number of vacation rentals to 14. We know we probably have another 25, but we don't have enough code enforcement ability to go around trying to police them. So what are we supposed to do now? The ADUs, people are submitting ideas or plans or asking questions about ADUs when they keep changing. Even within that, they change the rules, setbacks, and they're talking about, I think, allowing 2-story ADUs.
That's correct. Yeah,
And so what are we supposed to do about this other than comply, because you can't shine this on? Cities bigger than us have tried to sue the state and have lost already. So we can't sue them. They have all the cards. So we just have to keep trying to come up with new ideas, different ways of us trying to solve the problem. So I thought there would be a path forward with the parklets, which is the situation we're talking about here. That to me, a preponderance of people have said they like outside dining. Many people who said, I don't like the parklets, I don't either. We threw them together in a week and a half to save the restaurants. They did, and then these extensions kept happening. What was supposed to be a 3-month deal, then it's extended. Well, the pandemic wasn't over right away. And so we kind of went along with the program. In the meantime, the condition of the parklets, gets worse. And then it's human nature. We had many of the restaurants who took advantage of the situation, who added more tables, who added tables on the sidewalk, who put up, menu boards, and then other retail businesses putting out clothing racks to be able to, because they felt they weren't in a position to compete, so they did that. I mean, I can't fault these people, because every one of the businesses on Main Street, of which I was one, are just trying to make a living. Nobody gets rich owning a business on Main Street. And I could probably have attestation to that here. Most of us, when we opened a business on Main Street, bought ourselves a job, basically. So anything that anybody did, I can't find terrible fault with. But, we have the considerations of what is legal. We have ADA to deal with, and we see that our sidewalks have become difficult to walk up and down, especially for handicapped people. There's no question that having the parklets in the street is the least desirable of circumstances. And so I think what we all, myself included, got kind of caught up in, well, let's just have one more meeting. Let's do this. Oh, no, we can't do that right now because Housing Community Development wants this by such and such a date. So everything gets delayed. Meantime, things drag on. And here we are tonight having to possibly do the unpleasant thing and that's to terminate the temporary parklet units. But, I'm encouraged, if the restaurants can find some solace in the fact that, I still plan to fight to have parklets and have a parklet situation that would be amenable to the people that hate parklets. When people call me or email me and say, you have to take away the parklets. Well, yes, I represent them, they're my constituents, but so are the people that say, I love outdoor dining, and give me the same story on the opposite. I represent them too. And so it's not easy for me, especially since they're primarily in my district, to say, well, parklets are good or parklets are bad. And then we have the Coastal Commission, who is the ultimate arbiter of those parking spaces. They belong to them. And so my long-winded statement is that I'm afraid I have to defer to the needs of our staff and what they feel that they're capable of doing for us in their position and what they're faced with taking care of. And I'm not in the financial mood, based on everything else, of having to come up with a $300 and some thousand addition to our budget to hire more staff. And when it comes to even hiring consultants, yes, there's a savings over permanent, but then our staff has to supervise their work and interface with them. So that didn't seem like a viable alternative to me at this point. So unfortunately, I'm afraid that I will defer to staff's wishes in this particular case and hope that all my friends with restaurants understand. Anybody else?
Well said.
Did you want to?
Oh, I was just going to ask, Long Beach went through this process, like, in April or something, so it's not like we're jumping ahead of anybody, right? And I wasn't sure exactly what they did, but I thought they were evaluating for parking and safety and whatever, and I think in Belmont Shore, only like 6 parklets or something are supposed to remain. Anyway, it was just a question of, we're not the only ones that are looking at parklets and trying to decide what to do with them, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And you represented what Long Beach did very well. They ended their temporary program, made modifications, and did allow some parklets to come back under a different program. And yes, they were much more limited in number.
But everyone had to kind of start over.
That's correct.
Start the
That's how they
process.
set theirs up, yes, was a start over.
Except those cities that are not in the coastal zone. They can just decide that internally. And I understand that, like, the city of Garden Grove is actually, the city is going to build parklets in one of their, areas. So it's the Coastal Commission, once again, that complicates everything that we do. Tom? You still have something else?
No, it was just that Assembly Bill 61 also decides whether the alcohol rules can be relaxed too. And so we don't know on those whether those would be extended or not either.
Those under AB 61 are extended until that July date, July 2024, which is kind of interesting because if you can't relax your parking restrictions, but you can still do outdoor alcohol service. But it's
somewhere.
for the Garden Groves of the world that, maybe had spaces besides parking to offer for outdoor dining.
And I know that opinion is probably pretty close to split on this. I come from a district where pretty much we have to drive down here, so parking is an impact. I've had some of my residents say, I just don't go there anymore, and I assume it's a parking kind of thing. So it's a hard decision, but I think we have to be fair to all the businesses, and I think some of the businesses don't feel, I've talked to maybe 5, not a lot, who just say they haven't seen the big uptick in foot traffic, so not for them. So, I don't know what to, I don't know how to respond to the comment that there is. So anyway, thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. A couple questions. So you said there's 14 parklets currently?
Yeah, on Main Street.
Main Street?
And including there on
they-
Ocean.
And they roughly take up an average of 3 spaces, some more. So that's about 42 spaces on Main Street that are used for parklets, right?
I think we're down to 36 right now. Yeah.
Is part of the staffing issue is it that the enforcement, that there's the enforcement of it, or is it the setting of the standards for the new ones, or a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both, absolutely. I mean, we have, sorry, did you have?
No, go ahead.
Okay, it's a little bit of both. In terms of code enforcement, as I mentioned in my staff report, our neighborhood services officer has traditionally done a lot of things and still does, but truthfully, more than his full-time position could be spent in code enforcement. And that's just reactive code enforcement. That's not even including proactive code enforcement, which is what we're trying to do with the parklets. And then in terms of a new program, I mean, it again, to go back to your, planning school roots and things that were mentioned here by the audience today is about collaboration and
Right, and
facilitating
if they're
that.
not abiding by the rules, that's not helping at all either, right? I mean, would less parklets be equal to less staff time? I mean, if you had less, per se, if you had 5?
Well, for enforcement, yeah, that would.
I mean, so that would help
certainly
if
make
it
sense. Mm-hmm.
was downsized somewhat. So there's no current monthly fee charged to the business other than the barrier rail.
That's right.
Right. The barrier rail was started in April. So for approximately 2 years, there was no cost to the businesses.
That's correct.
And there's still no cost for the surface area use of the parklets. Right?
That's also
and the
correct.
city provided all the infrastructure for the perimeter of the parklet for the most part.
The main infrastructure for the K rails, and then businesses did add other things. Some of them have trees or some additional fencing type of work.
So was there any thought to add a fee for that? The surface use of the parklet? I mean, during this temporary stage or phase?
I mean, there've been discussions, but this was the first time with the subcommittee that we really talked about making that part of a revised program.
So in the beginning, the intent of the parklet was to be temporary.
That's
and that
right.
was conveyed to all the businesses. They knew this was a temporary, setup. It wasn't going to be permanent. It was going to be a temporary, and no one knew how long temporary was.
Yes.
Based on the current, situation here. But 2.5 years seems more than temporary to me. I mean, 2.5 to 3 years we're looking at. Why not wait till January 2024 if that's when the new law allows us to do that?
There's certainly options, available to the council, but in terms of, what we had discussed previously and in the direction that staff had, or that council had provided in September was to revise the parklet program because the one we have is, challenging in certain ways. And, there's the look of it. I mean, someone mentioned safety. I know that I've had a couple conversations with our former police chief about his concerns there. So we were trying to look for alternatives that mitigated some of those challenges. Yeah. So that would be, again, a new program with quite a bit of staff time and effort going into it to create.
Well, yeah. I mean, like a lot of people, I admit I love the parklets. I like the use of parklets. I think one good thing about them is they gave a lot of residents the opportunity to see the restaurants, up front and personal. I mean, a lot of times people wouldn't go into these restaurants if it wasn't right on the street like that. I walk Main Street daily, 7 days a week, bike my dog down there. I enjoy eating lunch outside, dinner outside, underneath the umbrella. But, in the city, during the last 2 years provided these parklets, and they did a great job setting them up. They put them out quickly. Maybe it was too quickly because there's probably some structural issues. And what I noticed is a small fraction of the parklets and the parklet owners or the business owners are keeping them up. They do a great job. I see them in the morning, just a couple cleaning the streets, cleaning the gutters, picking up the trash. The upkeep is really good, in really good condition. But a majority of them don't. Many have broken fences, dead plants, dead trees, trash, debris, broken umbrellas, dirty gutters. Some added tarps to it. Some are extended beyond the business, itself. They overextend into the next business over. I'm sure that's probably cumbersome. And many are just plain empty. I mean, I go there a lot. I drive home and I swing around Main Street, see how it is. And a majority of them have been empty lately. We've had standing meetings with the chamber president. We have a subcommittee meeting, and I think we've had 3 different presidents through the pandemic, and we've mentioned, hey, upkeep of the parklets is utmost important. Let's get these places cleaned. And overall, I'd say globally, they're looking a little dated. I think they're a little, they're beat up. They're dirty underneath it. They're dirty on top of it. They're beat up in front of it, other than the exception of maybe 25%. So the parklets were intended to be temporary. 2.5 years, almost 3 years is more than temporary, I would think, at this time. And in light of that, I would be in favor of resetting, like a reset period. I would like to see the staff recommendation say something like temporarily terminate the temporary parklets. Because I don't want it to see it die completely, because I think if there's a way to have a fee associated with it prior to the parklet put up, that would maybe eliminate some parklets. That would get the business owners to, put more into their own perimeter of the parklet. Get the standards up before we prolong this, temporary parklet program for another year, 12 months, 18 months, whatever it is. It just keeps on going and going, and nothing's getting any better. The 3 or 4 that are really nice and doing well are great, but the rest of them are dated and beat up and not appropriate by any means.
So where do you draw the line?
Well, I think if you have a reset and you clean up the streets, more importantly, the streets are dirty.
Who's going to clean them up?
Well, when it's a reset,
Street sweep.
and they're removed, they remove the street sweepers like they did before the pandemic. But I think in the meantime, we have January, February, March, maybe come up with some standards and have something ready to go in the spring and the summer. I know it's probably a lot of work, but if we have some type of fee up front or a pay schedule up front, they have to apply for it. It's not just granted because they need it. That might, persuade some people not to do it. And you might only have 5 or 6 or a fraction thereof. I mean, so I think it's, I'd like to see it kind of a reset and then come back at a later date, sooner than later, but at a later date, something like that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I had a question on the costs. Like if we do start charging, let's say it's $1,000 a month or something, would that, and it goes down, like Mayor Pro Tem was saying. I mean, there's only 14 out of 28 now, so if we start charging, it's going to go down to 7 to 10. And if we were maintaining 28, then it seems like we should be able to offer something. And I like the idea of resetting. Let's clean out the dirty ones, get rid of them, and then I thought staff's proposal at the last meeting was good, where you bring them level, you have certain standards for each one. And my question is, if it's black and white, like if they don't follow this standard, they lose the opportunity to do the parklet. So there's not much code enforcement necessary, because if they don't pay or they don't follow the guidelines, then they lose the parklet. So I guess if we do it that way, does that reduce the cost?
Can I say something?
I'm still talking.
Yeah, when you're done.
Go ahead. Can you respond?
Would it reduce enforcement costs to have less parklets? Yes. If we had black and white standards, that certainly makes it simpler. It's creating the standards. It's creating the revised program that, again, I can't recommend. That's where we invest our time right now compared to these other priorities.
I mean, I looked at Laguna Beach. They have the standard with they make it level with the sidewalk. I mean, we can look at a few other cities, possibly kind of copy what they do and just say, this is it, yes or no. It doesn't seem like it would require $300,000 for a year.
I think we're really looking at this as the 300,000 is this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, kind of, to use that sort of terminology. We are already underwater in all of the priorities and all of the tasks that we have been handed by the state to do. We are behind. We've missed deadlines, several of them. Again, that's why my recommendation is to focus on those things. I absolutely agree with everything you guys are saying, that that there is value in parklets and that other programs have been created. I have looked at them. The temporary program that you saw was based in part by other communities because we reviewed those things. But that doesn't mean we can stamp it and move forward. Again, to reiterate some of the things that the subcommittee had asked for was a more thorough analysis of what a market rate is. How do we consider market rate for an outdoor dining space that, we can find out what market rate of a restaurant is, and I did do some research on that in preparation for the subcommittee meeting, but do we look at the use of a parking space the same way that we look at the use of an indoor space? Should it be market rate? It's a different environment. You're not protected from the elements. You don't have heating and light and those kinds of things that you have inside. Is that worth the same amount of money? All of those things, I think, are going to be important discussion items if we were going to get to a permanent program. So I do think there's complexity to it and multiple conversations to be had if that's...
And I think the other, just to support that idea, the other problem is there's only legal authority to do this until January 1st of 2024. So you could devote the staff resources, you could even copy another city's ordinance, but there's only legal authority to use city-owned parking spaces for private businesses until January 1st of 2024. So at some point, you spend a few months putting the program together, get everything cleaned up, and then you're going to go to those permitted businesses and say, as of January 1st, 2024, these have to be removed because, the Coastal Commission is not going to permit this. And they're only permitting it because state law says they have to. And there's a state law now that says that permission is repealed as of January 1st, 2024. So that's the big concern, is that it's all kind of a big push for a few months before they have to be removed again. And then I would just say one thing, because I would have to do the legal part of the code enforcement. It's not really simple to just go out to a business and say, hey, you don't comply with this particular section of the code, we're just going to carry your parklet away. It's a whole proceeding, right? All of our code enforcement activities, require a legal proceeding where, you have to get, unfortunately, lawyers involved, and all the business has to do is say, no, we're not going to do it. They've got property rights, and we've got a whole thing going there. So it's not a really simple, the city kind of comes in with a bulldozer the next day type of code enforcement effort. It is a very intensive, even if just one business owner says, no, I'm not going to remove it. It's a couple-month process to go through a court and get an order to do it.
Even if it's city property on the street?
Yeah, because what's city, I mean, think of how much trouble we have. I'm analogizing how much notice we have to give and how much trouble we have removing what staff might consider to be abandoned property from a homeless individual who leaves property on the sidewalk, right? There's a whole notice provision and a process we have to go through before we can remove and then dispose of that even abandoned property. In this case, you're going to have a restaurant that puts its tables and chairs, it builds the platform. Yeah, it's on city property, but there's private property that's sitting on city property, wherein those restaurant owners have a little bit of a property right to not have it taken away without notice and an opportunity to fight it. So, I'd analogize it to parked cars. What we have to do before we can tow an illegally parked car. There's all kinds of process that has to happen, and it's not just a simple fix.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a shame. I think I agree with a lot of the people that like the parklets, that it creates kind of a community-oriented environment. I think there's more business and traffic on Main Street, increases the amount of people and the time that people hang out on Seal Beach. A lot of the restaurants that I go to are here tonight. Every restaurant, needs to take care of them, and that's the problem, I guess, that we're talking about. Most of the residents I've talked to in my neighborhood do like them and want to keep them. We haven't heard any complaints about parking due to the parklets. People can find parking still. I've never had a problem. I always come down to Main Street and just go into the paid lot if I can't find a spot. This safety, eating outside, it's safer for people that are leery of COVID or catching something else. And so I would tend to agree with Mike that we do a reset and just take them down and offer another option where there's only probably 7 to 10 parklets and it doesn't take as much staff time.
Question: if the parklets disappeared overnight, does our current code enforcement staff have the ability to enforce the A-frame signs, menu boards, clothing racks, and other tables, benches that have existed and continue to exist, which is a whole other part of the code enforcement, but without parklets?
As time allows, we're trying to make good decisions with staff time. So when our neighborhood services officer is down here, he's trying to hit everything so he can, be here for 2 hours and do it all because he's got to move on.
I've seen him with his yellow pad with every occupancy and every violation. It's whack-a-mole, and, he does this and everyone goes, oh yeah, we'll be gone tomorrow, and it is gone tomorrow, but back 2 days later. So, I mean, I'm still worried about if we extend what we have today, her department still has to come up with a plan. How much do we charge per square foot for the street that's going to be utilized by the restaurant? What kind of a design? I mean, we're still going to have to go through the same steps, except we're still calling them temporary. But to Craig's point, yeah, they're only going to be temporary, and it would be amazing that any one of our restaurant friends would be willing to invest $15,000+ to build a parklet to our specifications, and still be in discussions from the day that we say we're doing that, be in discussions with the Coastal Commission, and come, December 31st, they say, nah, starting tomorrow, parklets have to go. I mean, that would just kill me to see that happen. I'm not offering very good advice, because I'm running out of solutions here.
Well, I just think the way that it's written, it says terminate the temporary park.
Well, that's because that's what they were called. That's
Well,
what
it's
the
terminating doesn't look at ever revisiting.
No, that's, well,
anything
then
again.
change the words. I mean, I think those are semantics.
Yeah, no, it
I
is,
w- I
it
would
is,
like to
it
see,
is. But there's opportunities, and that date has been moved before,
no, we could,
right? I mean,
Look,
that's January 2024.
we could say, sit here tonight and vote and say, don't do anything.
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm not
leave
saying
the
that.
park, because we don't have the staff availability, and we don't have the money to hire more people to put together an adequate, revitalized, temporary parklet situation. So the alternative to that is that we go up and down Main Street, maybe we help, if Samuel can't do it, and say, hey, get rid of these dead plants, clean this place up, get somebody out here with a broom, and we'll be back next week to see if you've done it. If you haven't, it's $1,000 fine, or I don't know if we can even do that, but,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we can do that, but it's still the same parklets that people don't like. And it's still the same parklets that are potentially obstructing the access visually to some of the businesses that are adjacent to the restaurants.
I think some of the options that were provided at the subcommittee meeting were pretty adequate. They were nice parklets. You had options available at that last meeting, at the subcommittee meeting.
There was a design
There
that was
a
mocked up,
couple of
yes.
options, and not 14 businesses are going to do that.
No, I mean, if
So
we,
we have a plan, we just have to get the standards to go with the plan. Eventually, I'm not saying do it tomorrow, but I'm just saying, give it a little bit of time, 5 months, and come back. I don't know. I won't be here, but.
Easy
you
for
can have
you to say.
You could have another meeting, another subcommittee, but to say it's dead is a different,
I
mean,
know.
That's what you want.
That's not what I want.
All right.
It isn't.
All right.
But I don't know how we
I mean,
keep our community development department afloat in responding to, the housing community development department, which has no sense of humor. We told them, we'd like to get this done in time, but we're trying to get this parklet thing ironed out. They're not going to laugh.
No.
And how do we overcome that problem?
Is an option just leave it as is and just start charging, $500 a space? And then if they don't pay, we take away
Well,
the park.
there's no question, Tom, and I don't disagree with that. That will eliminate probably, if we have 14, you might eliminate 6 just by doing that. Fine. But, so now you're down from 14 to 8. Correct? Yes. Does that solve the problem? Is that going to make the folks here that don't like the parklets because they're in the street, because the maintenance of them is, even under the best of circumstances, the maintenance is an issue. It's a lot harder to keep an eating area clean when it's on asphalt.
I'm just saying, if they're paying for it, they're going to be more likely to keep it nice. And
But can you keep it nice? Can you keep a situation with tables and chairs that are sitting in the middle of the street protected? It's dirt is still,
Yeah.
accumulating.
Food
So I don't know. I think you would eliminate you'd eliminate the restaurants that are benefiting from the fact that we haven't charged up to this point for the use of the space. And that we built the barriers and brought the things in, and then we finally said, okay, at least pay us what it's costing us to rent the K-rails. That's good. But this thing kind of took on a life of its own because it was working and it was extending with its own life because they kept slipping the emergency schedule. And so now are we saying, well, let's just keep slipping that schedule until January 1st of 2024?
well, what would it take to charge a business, like in a month. So you have 30 days, and you're going to be charged X amount of dollars. Just say $2,000 for 3 parklets. Could that be something that could be done in a letter, or how do you?
Well,
do that?
from the legal perspective,
Is it a permit, or is it?
yeah, you'd have to amend all the permits, right? All of those permits exist now. Now, technically, they all expired because they all have an expiration date, and they all have a condition that say this permit was going to expire in 2021, right? I think December of 2021 was the expiration date.
We had additional administrative
But then they were administratively extended. So they're all going to have to be, but they all say they're not no cost. So the city council would have to adopt a fee to be applied to those, and then we would have to amend those permits to require the collection of the payment of those fees, and then we would have to collect from those restaurant owners the fees, and obviously do something to shut down the owners that don't pay the fees.
Let me ask a different question. If we do what Mike and Tom are proffering, is that going to solve your problem enough to be able to continue the reason that you came here in the first place for?
It is absolutely still staff time to do that. There's not, I wish there were a magic answer, I really do, but it's, amending permits, writing staff reports, putting together a fee, and I can't imagine that, you guys would want to adopt a fee without, some reasonable backup and information on why the fee was set at that rate. Those are the things that we're looking at from a program perspective as the way to move forward. Now, you can do, a little bit of a shortcut on things. It's still a project.
How long do you think it would take your department, given reasonable time to do all the administrative permit changes, the time for that to be legally in effect so that you can say, okay, in 30 days you start paying this much? Until we could say, okay, we're going to take a breather, but you're going to start paying, and we're asking you to clean up the parklets that you have, and ask them to comply with code enforcement. How long is that going to take? Reasonably.
If I could, Mayor, I think in all fairness, though, the question is, and again, all 5 of you are elected to set policy, and we implement your policy, and you hire a manager to manage day-to-day operations and hire a staff team to implement your policy. But in all fairness, if what you're saying is you're wanting to go back and you're wanting to extend permits and set standards and code enforcement and fees, in essence, what you're saying is everything else that we've already identified as high priority that we're already behind on that has significant consequence for noncompliance, that takes a back seat now. That's why we're here and we're in this difficult position. And unless, we've mentioned it in the staff report, if the council wants to allocate funding to help us hire staff so that we have adequate staffing to focus on all those higher priorities and then eventually get to looking at a more permanent parklet type program, except for the fact that we already know it's a temporary program. So it's difficult to ask those types of questions of staff when we already know where we're at and what's in front of us.
I agree.
I can provide just a little bit of insight into, how I would do what's, being discussed as a possibility in terms if we were to extend the parklet program in some form or another. My building department, I mean, we call in backup at least once a week for permits and inspections because we are running way above our normal capacity. A normal building inspector capacity is 12 inspections per day. We're running 16 almost every day. The number of plan checks, just the volume of what we're doing, in addition to, you know, some big projects like a specific plan. I don't have planners with spare time. So this project will be my project. And how long it would take me to do is a really interesting question because it's like chasing squirrels all the time. You know, I'd need blocks of time to do the work. There's nowhere to delegate these types of things. And I'm here to follow the direction of you and the city manager, but we truly have challenges.
I just want to ask a question. If we have everybody pull back into the restaurant, that becomes the county's job to oversee? That's not our job anymore to deal with?
Pretty much.
I mean, from county monitors health permits, but, you know, we also have our own municipal code, so sometimes there are, you know, code violations that, you know, happen in restaurants, but we just wouldn't be having to enforce the additional parklet space.
The whole business outside, okay.
Mm-hmm.
How many folks in your department?
There are 2 planners, 1 building technician, 1 building inspector, our neighborhood services officer, and then we have a contract for part-time assistance when we need it with the building official.
I remember asking my son, who's works for the city of Huntington Beach, you know, how many people do they have in their planning department? And granted, it's a city of 200,000, but he said, I don't know, 2 or 3 floors. So, figure. I'm sorry this is taking so much time, but I think it's worth it. You know, it seems to me that we've sort of come up with the let's clean up the parklets, let's start charging for the space. And we've already done that. But that
We haven't
was
charged.
done independent of our planning department's ability to actually accomplish that in context of all of the other tasks that they have to deal with at this point. So we're sort of going back and kind of revisiting the same thing again. I mean, I don't think I've eaten inside any of our Main Street restaurants since we've had the parklets. So I like eating outside. My wife won't eat
I think
inside.
we all do. I just think that there should be a plan forward, you know, of some sort.
And
I'm
that-
not saying.
I agree.
don't-
Unfortunately, that
This is
plan
a priority, but I think there needs to be a plan or a door opening of some sort, because for the successful businesses and the proper businesses, we all like it. It's a win-win for everybody. The ones that are dilapidated and beat up, no one likes that stuff. So just to say terminate it and then we're done, we're going on a different business, which is, I mean, a priority, I get that. I mean, I know you have priorities, but just to close the door on it, to me, doesn't seem like a good idea, but that's, you know, your call if that's, you know, how you want to look at it, so.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But
All right.
Can I make a suggestion, or is that totally out of order?
No.
if we vote to terminate the program, when would that be effective? That could be effective in 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. Correct?
The staff report suggests January 31st, but yes, that is movable.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for the expiration of the time extended, would we be able to make any effort to give Samuel a couple of days, a week more to work and start talking to some of the businesses about serious time? And do we also have the ability to create an arbitrary, a figure for rent of the, or mitigation fee, whatever you want to call it, that would be, could be lightly researched and, in your opinion, be reasonable? Since we're not, there's no, at least I don't know of anybody that's going to meddle with any decision we make for what that mitigation fee would be. So if we said it's going to be, if it was in, if we know that indoor space on a street like Main Street is worth $250 a square foot, and you calculate how many square feet in a 3 parking space parklet, that comes out to you approximately $2,000 a month.
The research that was presented to the subcommittee
And if we say,
meeting,
well,
yes.
it's not indoor
that's-
premium space, so we'll make it $1,000 a month. And we just say, by the way, starting in 30 days, it's going to be $1,000 a month plus clean up your space. And by the way, you know, this is all going to be terminated in 90 days, 120 days, whatever you feel comfortable with. Is that a viable, sneaky way of reaching a compromise here?
I can certainly ask Samuel to prioritize Main Street. That's a normal course of action.
Yeah.
With regards to the fee, I think, City Attorney, do you want to weigh in any further on choosing a number?
Yes, Craig, your words of wisdom, please. We need them.
Well, I think we can come up with a temporary fee number that represents something that, you know, could be defensible if the council adopted it. I'd have to frankly figure out how to do that, but you know, I would just emphasize again that the outside date, unless the legislature adopts some new law, is January 1st,
Right.
2024. So,
But this new secret plan doesn't involve building a new parklet yet. It's sort of dragging our feet, yes.
well, you all set the date that this terminates, right? You've set an original date. You extended the date. We know that the authority to do it ends on January 1st, 2024. So sometime between now and then is a date you could set.
My goal would be to allow outdoor dining in a more pleasant and uncrowded setting than we face now. That if the fee of $1,000 a month is going to discourage some of our more marginal, not marginal restaurants, but marginal parklet users, then we start eliminating the sheer number of parklets that we have on the street.
I mean, I think part of the problem, in addition to the date, is the maintenance and the cleanliness of the street.
Right.
So if we have this reset period, and then we have a fee associated with it in 3 months or 4 months, can we put up another temporary parklet for the people that pay the fee beforehand? Like in the early spring, you know, maybe, or late winter, maybe, you know, February, March, April, they could come back and go, okay, we want it, we got a fee, it's $2,000, and we'll put up the same barrier, but they're freshly painted and the street's clean, and you have it to the end of the year, or whatever. I mean, just to clean the streets up and clean those barriers.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud.
I don't have any objection to that.
It just kind of cleans the slate.
Yeah.
To restart it and then apply for it, because the people that aren't doing anything aren't going to do anything anyway, you know?
So how do you-
And
so-
they'll just prolong it and prolong it and prolong it.
I mean, do we have
Until
the-
you evict them, you
Do
know?
we have the mechanism to just say, look, your park looks like hell. You haven't, we've watched this now for months. You're really not using it enough. Please take it down. Do we have the ability to do that?
Well, the
without-
city put it up.
Well,
The city
we
take
can
it down.
ask anyone
Well, yeah,
anything.
but you know how things are.
Right,
You know, wait a minute, according to, you know,
Such and such a law.
the Crown Law, you know, dating back to 15th century England.
I think what I hear is that it needs to be cleaned up and then
Yes.
kind of, you know, even if you did another temporary type thing for the summer even, or spring, summer, you know, that could be put up, you know, just like it was before, a week or two, but with a fee associated with it and a permit application, because, you know, you have to put something into it to get it. You don't just get it because you raise your hand and go, I want
Right.
3 spots, thank you very much. But if we just do a reset, just take them down, and then 4 months, come up with a fee. We could put up another permanent type situation for the businesses that pay the fee. And it could be 6 months or 9 months, end of the year, and it's done. I mean,
You know,
just take them down, and then this date could be amended, you know, and.
and the other, you know, the addendum to that, and please don't answer, because you can't, you know, are the
I'm
people that came out in force saying, I hate parklets, will that satisfy them for the reasons of they're dirty, they're ugly, they're not maintained?
Well, I don't think they said they hate them, they just don't like the appearance of them right now, and they look pretty bad right now. because
Yes.
the
And they take
weather-
up parking.
They
Yeah.
take up parking,
The
so.
parking. Although, you know, I received, as I said, the people that were in favor of parklets to a person, and these were not people that could walk here, said that parking is not an issue for them, that they find parking.
I don't have a problem.
I
You
never
know,
have a problem
I mean,
there.
I can say from personal experience that I never had a client of my business tell me that yes, I had parking, so does Woody. You know, that I never had an issue with people telling me I came down here. A lot of people didn't know I had parking in the back of my business, by the way, and came in and they said, you know, I had to go around the block twice. Nobody ever said I was here, I drove around the block 3 times, couldn't find a place to park, and I left. You're lucky I came back. Never, 40 years. Promise. So, the parking situation, I mean, I drive up and down Main Street or ride my bike mainly, you know, at different times of the day. Noon, 12 noon to 1:30, you know, it's going to be tough to find a parking space on Main Street, you know, no matter how many more spaces we had. Dinner time on the weekend, good luck. But the rest of the time, you know, I can drive up and down Main Street and find 2 or 3 spaces per side, per block, that are open. And there's times when, heaven forbid, I've had to drive to Main Street in my car, and I'm looking for a place to park because I got to get into the post office or something, you know, and I've had to go around the block a couple of times, that, whoop, there's that space. So I would tend to personally not place as much credence on the, we're all going to die because we don't have parking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We just don't have parking.
So if we go with this recommendation, would it be possible to come back in the spring or early summer and say we want to do another temporary type situation for the summer, spring months, or not? Or would that be
Yeah, of course. I think the recommendation.
cost.
The recommendation I was going to make, assuming the council supports staff's recommendation tonight, is maybe we come back even sooner. Strategic planning meeting in March that we would be scheduled to do. That gives us the ability internally to see where we stand with HCD on our housing element. Where do we stand with coastal on our local coastal plan? What's the status on revising our code and enforcement with respect to short-term vacation rentals? We have a major development project proposal in the north part of town that's going to take a significant amount of staff time. I mean, that would give us the ability over the next 2 to 3 months to see where we stand on those high-priority efforts, to be able to give you some options, potential options on expanding a temporary program, knowing it's only going to be for a few more months.
Okay. Wanna make a motion, Joe?
I'm in. No, you make the motion. You're the one that wrote all these notes down.
I'm like, they're not changing anything.
Yeah, but you won't be here to defend them in a couple of months. So.
So under that scenario, all you need is a motion to adopt the resolution that's before you. Under what Jill just suggested, the reset program would start January 31st. So all of the permits would be revoked. Staff would be back before you at the strategic planning meeting in March with the
So that
ideas
we
for
would be
moving forward.
adopting the resolution that concludes the temporary parklet program. Only it doesn't mean that the parklets have to come down.
There's no way to clean without the parklets coming down. So it does mean the parklets would come down as of January 31st.
Come down when?
As of January 31st. That's what's before you.
This
2023.
2023.
And then how would we,
Come back in March, April, the new permitting proposal.
so that all the current parklets would be removed? We'd come with the forklift and take away the boxes, and it's up to the businesses to remove their tables and chairs and lighting and air conditioning and whatever else they've managed to get in.
It's what they were doing before.
Huh?
It's what they were doing before. Just go back to it.
Could we include a commitment of something being proposed to council before the end of March or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, the commitment I'm making to you tonight is to come back at the strategic planning meeting, another council meeting, in a couple of more months, once we have a better idea where we stand with respect to high-priority projects that we can't set aside. We don't have an option.
Right. But I also want to make sure that this speaks to your issues of having the time, the people, the energy to be able to.
Temporarily, it does, yes, with the exception of funding, making a 300,000 plus
No,
allocation to fund additional staffing. I think temporarily it
Yeah.
helps. But we still don't have the staffing level to be able to support what
Right.
we've got right now.
As long as everybody understands that.
What do you think, Sandra?
I love the parklets, but practically, they have become an eyesore, and that's the kind of comment I hear, that people think it's dirty on Main Street because they're just not being maintained. And for those people who own restaurants, I'm kind of taken aback that they would have let them deteriorate like that, knowing that people would avoid their business because they think the parklet's dirty, what's going on inside. So, I like parklets, but adopting this resolution will take care of the immediate issue. But it still doesn't obviate the need at some point for increasing the staff in order to accomplish this one little extra project. Because next meeting, there may be another little extra project, and it just keeps going, and we don't have the money to fix everything. So I'm going to vote against it. I'm going to vote for the resolution.
Any other discussion? Final words, Shelley? You're tired.
I'm tired. Past my bedtime.
Tom?
It's a big decision.
I mean, I personally think if they just started paying, you'd see all the bad ones go away.
That's-
And if we just started charging $1,000 a month, like you suggested, see all the bad ones go away, let them keep it till January 1st, 2024, since it's going to expire anyway. So and that's what I would lean towards.
Okay. Mr. Motion, what do you think?
Won't be here in 2 months, that's what I think. Whatever you make, whatever you suggest.
I think seems to be a well thought out, at least, kind of compromise for now. So
In an hour, well thought out.
I will call for the question then.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we support the staff recommendation.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Please vote.
Motion carries
4 to 1?
It's not showing on my screen.
It's not showing.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
No.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Verapapa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes,
Motion carries 4 to 1.
passes 4-1.
Not appearing on the
Okay,
screen.
Tonight's meeting, no, if anybody needs to leave, please do. Tonight's meeting will be adjourned in memory of former council member and mayor of
Needs to
Seal
move
Beach,
closer.
Morton Baum.
Move closer.
What?
Move closer to the mic.
To the microphone.
Can't hear you.
Too much
Sorry.
noise.
Well, there's nobody here. Pardon me. Tonight's meeting will be adjourned in the memory of former Seal Beach council member and mayor Morton Baum, who passed away on November 16th. He was 85 years old. Morton moved to Seal Beach in 1961 with his wife Sherry and their sons. While raising their family, he became active in local politics, advocating for environmental protection, opposing the war in Vietnam, and fighting the overdevelopment that threatened the small-town character of Seal Beach. He sought election to the Seal Beach City Council in 1970. He took office and was elected mayor by his fellow council members in July of 1970. To his credit, he led an unprecedented effort by a municipality to prevent new oil drilling off the California coast, began to acquire public property that created the green belt along Electric Avenue and the property that became Gum Grove Park. Morton also enacted new regulations to prevent high-density development, establish Whoa, where did it go? Here we go. Let's see. Established the Environmental Quality Control Board and began renovations of the Seal Beach Pier. My gosh. And construction of the Leisure World Library. For his many accomplishments, the Seal Beach City Council honored him for his dedicated services as a council member with a resolution in 1980. Morton A. Baum is survived by his wife, Sherry L. Baum, sons Randall Liss and Jeffrey Baum, grandchildren Sarah, Anna, and Sam Liss, and Amy Baum, daughters-in-law Annelle Baum, Lisa Galloway, Isabel Liss, and Barbara Reisman. He was predeceased by sons Chris Baum and Jason Liss. On behalf of the city of Seal Beach, I send our condolences to the Baum family and all that knew and loved him. Are there any council members that would like to say something? I would. I didn't know his history. I knew the name, and I knew that he had been on the council, but I didn't know that much about his environmental concerns and his concerns socially and otherwise. And I think when I responded to the email requesting this, I said that he was my kind of guy if I had known him. So I think that we should all miss somebody like this. You know, he's one of those people that has kept Seal Beach the way it is today and the way that we continue to fight for. So,
Mayor, if I could just add, I did have the honor and pleasure to speak with Mr. Baum's wife and just offer my personal condolences on behalf of the city and our community, and it was quite an honor to speak with her and learn about the legacy that he still leaves in this town.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his strong activism and the work that he did for the short time that he served on this council. And so I just wanted to add that and extend my condolences to his son, who's here with us in the audience tonight.
I really appreciate your phone call. Lessons to be learned. Tonight's meeting will also be adjourned in memory of fire engineer Mike Tooley, who passed away on November 16th. He was 61. Mike was born in Linwood, California, and moved to Orange County when he was 11 years old. He grew up in Westminster and graduated from Fountain Valley High School. He became a piping engineer at Fluor in Irvine. It was at the age of 32 that he decided to become a firefighter. He began his fire service career with OCFA as a paid call firefighter in 1997 and became a full-time firefighter in 2000. Mike promoted to engineer in 2006 with his last assignment at Fire Station 30 in the city of Dana Point. Mike is survived by his 17-year-old daughter, Kendra, his mother and stepfather, Donna and Ed Ryan, his father and stepmother, Richard and Lynn Tooley, and his sisters, Debbie Carcano, Kathy Pratt, and Stacy Ryan Bisick. On behalf of the city of Seal Beach, I send our condolences to Mike's family, his OCFA family, and all that knew and loved him. Chief, would you want to add a few words since you may have known him?
I worked with Mike for 4 years, 5 years down in San Juan Capistrano. He was as dedicated as a professional as you want from a public service member. And unfortunately, he was taken by occupational cancer. That is the silent killer in the fire service. It's the epidemic of the fire service. And he's one of the latest tolls of it. We've made some pretty dramatic changes in the way we conduct business nowadays and protecting ourselves, but unfortunately the damage to the unrecognized hazard for many years is still going to take its toll. We members of the OCFA, on behalf of Chief Hennessy and all its members, really appreciate your suggestion from the city and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Okay. Adjourned. I'm adjourning the council meeting in memory of former council member and Mayor Morton Baum and Orange County Fire Authority engineer Mike Tooley to meet for an adjourned regular meeting Monday, December 19th, 2022 at 5 p.m. And thank you for attending this evening. Have a good evening.